listening to this. You are the resistance.
Listen to the words of the man with the rifle in his hand. Don't be mistaken. I believe in peace, but I won't be taken. I will not submit to authority of man. I'm ready to die, but not for a lie. See the signs appear. It's gonna happen here.
This is Liberty Underground with Alex Snitker and Adrian Wiley on the 1787 Radio Network.
Well, good morning, Tampa Bay, St. Petersburg, Clearwater, and everybody in Provo, Utah.
Why is it always got? Wait. Why is it always got to be Provo?
It's not always Provo.
You've used Provo
You've
before.
done it twice.
Have I used Provo before?
You did.
What's up with Provo?
All those in Arlington, Texas. Good morning, then.
Arlington, Texas. I like that.
I was trying to go with different cities, and I didn't realize that I had used Provo in the past.
You have.
Yeah, you absolutely have.
I need to visit Provo then, if it's that on my mind.
You have
that
like
much.
a little bit of an obsession with Provo.
With Provo,
YouTube.
you know why? Because it just sounds
Utah.
cool.
No, you know why it is?
Provo.
I'll tell you why it is. It's subconscious, and I'll tell you where it's coming from. Fletch.
No.
It's
no.
not?
No.
Oh, okay.
If I was gonna give it a movie reference, Ocean's 11 or Ocean's 10. No, Ocean's 11.
Yeah, there was no. I don't recall the reference in Ocean's 11.
It was the scene when they were eating just before they were gonna talk about doing the job with everybody, and the one younger guy was talking to the older guy. He's like, "Yo, Provo's nice."
Wow, that's a pretty obscure reference.
That
That
is very
an
obscure
reference.
Yeah, I bet Provo is nice. And
I think you do well there.
you think I do.
No. That's what the guy said. He goes, "I think you do well there."
Well, I thought you meant I'm like, if you run for governor, you need the whole state, not just one little city, right?
Well, Utah's not in Florida, so.
Well, I know, but I thought you meant he'd do good in Utah, but only in Provo.
Oh no! That was the movie reference that was in there.
Are you going to finish the introduction or what?
Yeah, well, I tried to. You guys interrupted me right off the bat when I'm trying
you
to give
should be a
cities
professional,
out.
and you should be able to handle that and roll
Yeah.
with the punches.
Bismarck, Idaho.
There
It's
you
North-
go.
wait, it's North
no,
Dakota.
It's North Dakota.
Oh, Bismarck, North Dakota. Yeah, I got you. I'm not looking at a map right now.
How about-
U.S. Americans need to have maps.
How about the folks in Helsinki, Finland?
Oh, Helsinki. Represent. Fin side. All right.
not-
Good,
It's
good
not
morning,
Finland.
everybody. All right.
We're
anyway.
having some fun with you. Actually, I think we need to start throwing in some geography references because I think Alex is just slightly better than Miss South Carolina.
I believe U.S. Americans need to have maps so they can see places like Provo, Utah. All right. Hopefully everybody's doing well. This is Alex, co-host, Liberty Underground. Along with me, as you can tell, is the exciting news here in the state of Florida, which Adrian will get to at a later time. So I'm not going to go into that just yet. But possibly, and the odds are looking better every day, of being the governor of the state of Florida, Adrian Wiley. Good morning, sir.
Good morning, sir. How you doing today?
I'm doing pretty well. You know what? Honestly, look, man, if you've listened to the show before, you guys realize that sometimes I will rant heavy and hard, and sometimes I won't rant heavy and hard. I'm on the prep line on today right now because I'm ready. I'm I'm having a hard time getting through the intro because I want to get to this right off the bat. Matter of fact, when I saw this at 1 a.m., it hit me as a ton of bricks, right?
Yeah.
And I go, if there's a show you want to hear a rant on, you better tune in tomorrow. I don't want to make people have to wait and go through the whole show. I want you to be able to get your rant in early. So, I'm ready, but let me get to my next, the person to my right here. Hernando County's favorite.
Most love.
Libertarian. Danielle Alexandria, good morning.
Good morning.
How are you doing?
I'm doing good. I was, and you had this news this morning, and you actually caught us both off guard with this obscure reference, and we're like, what?
Well, it happens. It happens.
So basically what you're telling us is your bombers are scrambled. You're on DEFCON 2. The birds are heated up in the silos. You're ready to rock and
Oh,
roll.
hold on. The missiles are out of the silo.
Oh, they're already launched.
Oh, they're already in flight.
They're inbound.
They're ready to land, and they're ready to land about right now.
Well, let's
just go ahead and get to this right now. Thank you very much.
I had to
Thank you
turn
very
down
much.
my headphones. He's already so loud.
This is from BizPack Review and Tom Tillison, which we will not make fun of Tom today.
Why not? That show was so
I'm
much
not, no,
fun.
no, I do
Wait
not
a
want it to take away from the whole rest of it. And Tom,
I do have to say I took a little bit of a jab at Tom yesterday and at the focus of this article, but it was in good natured, so to speak. There, Tom. Just letting you know.
yeah. Well, mine wasn't nearly. I did actually post something at 1 a.m. last night on Tom's wall, and I'll get into what I actually posted because part of it's the rant. It wasn't about Tom, by the way. It was just about this is the guy you're bringing in. But let me get to that. If you're not aware, there is a Defending the American Dream Summit that is happening by the folks over at AFP.
Which is Americans for Prosperity.
Yeah, which is Americans for Prosperity. It's happening Labor Day weekend in Orlando, Florida. Now, this is like their big once-a-year event. Not that it necessarily happens in Florida. The last one actually like this happened in Washington, D.C., but this year they're doing it in Florida.
But AFP is very Florida-centric.
Well, Florida's one of the states that they don't look at they don't do all 50 states.
Right.
They do like 10.
Yeah.
Like the swing states, I think is what they do.
Yeah.
It's
Exactly.
generally swing states and the larger of the swing states.
And when you understand what their objective is, it makes a lot more sense why they do that.
Right.
Correct. Yeah. Correct. Now, in an interesting note, Americans for Prosperity Foundation announced on Wednesday, again, key word here, Wednesday, that Florida Governor Rick Scott will be a featured keynote speaker at the 7th Annual Defending the American Dream Summit, hosted over Labor Day weekend at Universal Studios Resort in Orlando, Florida.
I wonder if they're going to ride the rides.
Yeah, in a prepared statement, AFP Foundation President Tim Phillips said, and I want you to listen, this is what they're saying about Rick Scott. I'm proud to announce that Governor Rick Scott will be joining this year's Defending the American Dream Summit. Since taking office 2 years ago, he has fought hard for the principles of economic freedom, unless you want to gamble.
Wait. For the principles of economic freedom?
Hold on. Leading to impressive job creation, better education, and a balanced budget, all without raising taxes. Now, if you don't know anything about this summit, though, it's like a 3-day event. They're charging like $100 to go. There's a lot of people that are fans of this show, that are fans of what we do, that actually do like and are going to go to this event. And I have not been telling them to not go to the event. Not at all. I actually want them to see the waste of time that it is and get mad that they had to spend $100 to hear the kind of crap that you're going to hear at this thing. I've gone through the agenda. I've seen the list of speakers. Here's the thing. You got Rick Perry, lives in Texas. Bobby Jindal lives in Louisiana. Marco Rubio, well, he's from here, unfortunately. Ted Cruz, Texas. Ron Johnson. You know what? I don't even know where Ron Johnson's from. And Michelle Malkin and Greg Gutfield. Michelle Malkin is whatever, and Gutfield is. These two are entertainers. All right? And in the prepared statement, AFP likes to go, this guy has fought hard for the principles of economic freedom, leading to impressive job creation. Crap. Rick Scott. This is what he's done. So let's here's the thing. Since we're going to air out the stuff, let's get down to the business as to what Rick Scott's done while he's in office. There was a sheriff who supported the Second Amendment. He had him arrested and removed from office. Again, folks, this is a fact. This is not me making up something or having some kind of an opinion. This is a fact, and this is what he's done. The second thing he's done is that this guy that balanced the budget raised the budget by about $4 billion. It's at the highest point it's ever been.
That's $4 billion just this year. $8 billion since he's been in office.
$8 billion since he's. Thank you very much, Danielle. $8 billion since he's been in office. He supported the Medicare expansion of Obamacare in the state of Florida. That's what he did. Again, this is not up for debate.
Which was necessary for the implementation of Obamacare.
Yeah, and it was necessary for the implementation of Obamacare. You're absolutely right. That's his record. Not to mention all the other stuff that has gone on when it comes to, eliminating sweepstakes locations because he doesn't like it when old people use computers to gamble. You know what I mean? And in making that law, he actually signed a law that banned pretty much every electronic device in the state. We want to talk about an idiot.
Yeah.
That's an idiot.
And folks, I just want to expound on that. Technically, under the law that Governor Scott signed, your computer, your smartphone are illegal gambling devices.
They're called slot
they're
machines.
slot machines defined by law. Idiotic.
Yeah. Hold on. And also, and I forgot about this one. Thank you for reminding me, Adrian. He signed the law that implemented Common Core into the state of Florida.
Yes.
He signed it.
Right.
Yes.
He signed it all day long. And he hired the guy that was as corrupt as the day is long. This is what AFP is bringing. This is what AFP is endorsing. We've called them shills in the past. And the only thing we can do is show you piece by piece exactly what it is. It's well documented. We've put it out there. Talk to the former employees of AFP, the ones that they fired.
Yep.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of them. And they'll tell you, now they may had to sign some kind of an agreement to where they're afraid of getting sued because God forbid AFP would allow for open and transparency within their own organization. But this is what this group is. This is what AFP is. They do not care about liberty and freedom, not one iota. They care about getting Republicans elected into office, and when they are done, they'll give them glowing reviews, and they will give them political cover. Because I've looked over at their scorecard, and their scorecard is crap.
Well, and there's one underlying factor. You have to remember that AFP is funded predominantly by Koch Industries. And the one thing that they care about is how these politicians will vote and sign energy policy that benefits Koch Industries. Folks, we've explained this in detail. We've been talking about this for years. It's not that we want to attack AFP here. What we're telling you is the truth. What we're telling you is the information that we found through our in-depth investigations. That is what the case is. And what happened after the November 2012 election is all of those AFP people who were being told the whole time, well, we're supporting Mitt Romney and we're doing everything for Mitt Romney, but really, this is just, that's not really our purpose. Well, immediately after the election, within a month, all those people they hired in Florida were fired.
Yep.
So if it wasn't about just getting Republicans in office, no matter who they were, then wouldn't they still be working there?
Yeah. Good
We'd
people.
have
It's
more
all
work to
about
do.
yeah, it's all about getting people in office who will, they're scratching those, establishment Republicans back now, and after they're in office, they expect their energy, their tax breaks or their special favors and their single bids to go through. Once they're in office, they're expecting their payback. That's all AFP is about. And I find it very funny that Phillips would use the line that Governor Scott is a proponent of economic freedom. Folks, that's the tagline of my campaign.
Right.
I mean, literally, that is part of my slogan: economic freedom and individual liberty. I find that a little ironic, don't you?
Well, I don't think you should find it ironic at all because Rick Scott was not scheduled to come to this thing until Wednesday. Now, Wednesday's a key day.
Right.
And the reason why Wednesday is because you need a little bit of time to do this because there was some actually exciting news on Monday involving the governor's race.
Yeah.
Again,
Well,
AFP,
not so exciting for Rick Scott, though.
Well, no, definitely. Well, not exciting for Rick Scott because
Motivating
there's a
for
whole
Rick
lot of
Scott,
people
maybe.
that actually see that Rick Scott is a complete Uncle Fester scumbag. All right, this guy is a coward. We went to his office to talk to him when they arrested the sheriff, and he didn't have the gonads to leave his office. And he told the secretary, like hiding under her skirt, like a little scumbag,
Right.
that, I left the country. Rick Scott, you're a coward piece of crap, and I could give a crap less if you're going to hide under a skirt or not. I'm going to call you a coward. Matter of fact, next time I drive through Tallahassee, because you got all those Dream Defenders in there that you got sitting around, all that stuff, trying to do the stand your ground crap. I'm going to walk in your office. I'm going to call you a scumbag. I'm going to yell it loud enough so you can hear me, and I'm going to like you to come out and actually respond to me. Now, don't respond to the Wiley. Don't respond to Danielle. Respond to me. You piece of crap. You've been a piece of crap. You've been a corrupt scumbag from the day is long. From day one, you've been corrupt. Day one. You only did the drug testing thing so you could make more money for your drug testing business. That's why you did it. You only want more Medicare for probably the stock you got still in HCA. That's what you're doing it for. It's obvious. It's clear. You could go up there and stand up there and act like whatever. But you and the AFP scumbags, you guys can go straight to hell. The people are waking up to your crap. That's what they're doing. We see it every day. They're waking up to it. And those that aren't, we're giving them the rest of the information that you refuse to give them. I'm tired of you people. But there's a reason why. And again, Adrian, what happened on Monday?
Well, hang on a second. I just want to get the quick disclaimer in. The views expressed by Alex Snicker are not necessarily those of the hosts, the staff, the advertisers of the 1787 network, or the Wiley for Governor campaign. But they probably are.
Most likely.
More than likely, yeah. So what happened on Monday of this week? It was a very, very interesting week for the campaign.
Yes.
And I think when we tell you the story, you're going to understand a little better why all of a sudden AFP was scrambling and Rick Scott was scrambling to try to get a foot back in the door.
Get some FaceTime with the grassroots.
Yeah, right. With the Tea Party and Patriot
Right.
groups and things like that.
And the one that'll keep a controlled environment for him is AFP.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Oh, right.
Oh, yeah. That's just a friendly turf all day long, and they'll make sure that he doesn't get any questions that he doesn't want, and
Right.
If there's any dissent, they'll be quickly ushered out of the room, I'm sure.
Yeah.
But the reason, perhaps, that Rick Scott is doing this is because
Allegedly,
presumably,
Yeah, we don't have any proof of this.
No, but it's a pretty easy logic train to follow here. Is that on Monday, a new scientific poll was released to the media. And that poll asked, who do you support for governor? Democrat Charlie Crist, Republican Rick Scott, or Libertarian Adrian Wiley?
You mean they put a libertarian on the ballot?
Yeah,
That's unheard of.
They actually put
They
a
named your
libertarian-
name
they
and not
named me by
just
name.
other?
Yeah, I wasn't other, like they like to do so often. In that poll, Charlie Crist got approximately 40% of the vote. Rick Scott got 29.5%, and I got 8.7%. And this was a large poll.
What did you say?
8.7%.
How much did you get?
8.7%. This was a large poll. The sample size was well over 3,000. It has a margin of error of 1.8% with 95% confidence. So this poll was released to the media on Monday.
Right.
On Wednesday, all of a sudden, Rick Scott and AFP are making the big announcement that he's now the keynote speaker for this event.
Yeah.
Now, they've been
So-
planning this event for months, I would say probably almost a year.
Oh,
and
yeah.
They didn't have a keynote speaker before Wednesday?
Yeah, I think it was originally Marco Rubio.
Well,
Right.
it started out with Rubio.
Right.
And the grassroots reaction was horrible. Like,
Right.
people were pissed.
Right.
They were all kinds of crazy about this. So then they had to start bringing in, like, Rick Perry. Like, that was going to help.
Because nothing
Bobby-
settles the grassroots like Rick Perry.
Yeah, I love America. I like to make love to America. I'll explain that joke later on.
Yeah,
by the way.
don't even
I will
bother. Just
totally
don't
play
even
that.
bother.
I'll play that Jon Stewart clip all day long, though. I don't even care. Yeah, they brought in like Rick Perry. Then they brought in Bobby Jindal. Michelle Malkin's going to be there. Some guy from the American Enterprise Institute or some crap is going to be there. You got a lot of different people are going to be at this event. And now they got Rick Scott's going to be there. And I think the way that they listed it, he's one of the keynote speakers. Like, he's not the main keynote speaker. He's one of them. But let's see how I can say this the right way. They really do got to get his cred built back up with they're trying to get his cred built back up with the grassroots.
Right.
And there are some people that, for whatever reason, love Rick Scott. I mean, these people obviously just don't understand exactly what's going on. Yeah, I can't get to it either.
There's not too many that I hear of, though.
Yeah.
That love Rick Scott.
No, there's some, though. And like I said, it all depends, though. It was the same people that love Hannity that are mad that Megyn Kelly's going to take over. But we'll get to that here in a minute. But the St. Pete poll that came out, it was like 3,000 people that actually took this poll. And they talked about medical marijuana. They talked about total legalization, talked about gay marriage, and they talked about the governor's race. Oh, they also talked about stand your ground, too. So they brought up all of these different issues, and it was kind of some of this information we knew. Support for medical marijuana, 73%?
73.5%, 20.5% against, and 6% undecided.
Yeah. Now, if it should be just taxed and regulated, so this is full legalization, you're at 58%.
Right.
That's almost enough for a constitutional amendment. That's 2 points away from a constitutional amendment passage.
Yeah.
Because you don't need 50, you need 60 in Florida.
Right. And I think that that could easily sway over the 60%.
Oh, I think so,
because
too.
it's trending so much more towards that I think we're probably a year away from that being well over 60.
Yeah. Now let me say something. Let me mention something kind of funny here. Is that if you look at that poll right there, those two polls, 73% for full legalization, 58% or 73% for medical, 58% for full legalization. When John Morgan took over Puff'em, and they did what they're, he's like, well, we have to rewrite this thing because we got to make sure it passes and all this other kind of stuff, right? They made it much more restrictive. And the argument to making it more restrictive is that, well, you want to make sure that...
It's more likely to pass.
Yeah, more likely to pass. Well, if you didn't do any polling, which John Morgan did polling, he would have seen the same numbers that we're seeing right now.
Right.
If that's the case, then you wouldn't have had to change anything.
Right.
Unless it wasn't about actually medical marijuana, but it was actually about politics and a political football.
Yes.
And to give Charlie Crist a little bit more speaking time, speaking about the issue. By the way, the same Charlie Crist that actually did make more restrictive drug policy while Chain Gang Charlie was in charge.
Exactly.
Was in charge of Florida.
Yeah.
And he got the word chain gang because he was the AG, though.
Yeah, that was
Right.
when he was the AG, but when he was in office, he actually made it more strict to a smaller amount of marijuana would be needed to be considered a grow house.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
So
yeah, I think we all can agree that Charlie Crist,
former Republican,
former NPA,
known as Chain Gang Charlie,
is probably the biggest flip-flop politician, definitely in Florida. Probably on a national scale.
And I would actually argue that he is the biggest flip-flopper in this universe.
Yeah, I mean,
In the known universe, he
this
is the
guy
biggest flip-flopper.
literally, sticks his finger in the air and sees which ways the wind is blowing every day.
Yeah.
This is not like, okay, I need to sit back and really reassess my political beliefs, because the man does not have any
I
political
don't think
beliefs.
he has any.
All he has is apparently a desire to be in office all the time, and he will do whatever he thinks it takes to achieve that. And for anyone who hasn't seen that, it's insane. Now, Rick Scott is also a serial flip-flopper. Mm-hmm. Has he gotten to the point of Charlie Crist yet? No, just because he hasn't been in office long enough. But I think he would probably go that route, because that seems to be the new trend in Florida politicians.
The only difference between the two is hair and a tan.
Right.
That's it.
Well, I think Rick Scott has more money.
Well, Rick Scott has more money. And actually, Charlie Crist, I think, is more of a courageous person than Rick Scott is. Because Rick Scott is a coward.
He is a bit of a coward.
If he ever has to
I'll
tell the
give you
people
that.
of Florida anything, it's always somebody else doing it instead of him standing up there.
Oh, yeah.
Remember that it was for the rail stuff, where he had to end up taking the money for it. And so instead of going to the people and saying why he had to do this, he just did it.
Right.
And he had brought like the transportation secretary out instead.
Yeah.
Because he didn't have the testicular fortitude in order to actually do this.
Oh, the guy is a total coward.
He
A
really
total
is.
coward.
I have no...
And he won't acknowledge me in any way, shape, or form. And perhaps that's because it's not politically expedient for him to do so. But I think it's more the underlying factor is that he's a coward. He literally, like you were saying, he wasn't actually, and for the record, folks, Rick Scott was not actually under his secretary's skirt when he told her to tell us that he actually left for Paris.
How do you know?
Well, because she stood up, so we would have
I
seen
was
her.
at an angle where I could see slightly under her desk, and Rick Scott's legs were not sticking out. So
I got you. Okay.
he was not literally under under her skirt. He may have been hiding like in a corner behind a potted plant and a flag, like Pam Bondi
Pam
did
Bondi does.
the last time that we went up there.
That
in
was
front of her
actually
office.
hysterical.
That was so funny. Yeah. She literally, I mean, it's like, and we got to tell this story a little bit.
Right.
I was there right in front of her office talking to a reporter, and she comes out.
Right as you say, I'm Adrian Wiley, Libertarian candidate for governor.
Right. And she stops in her tracks, turns around, goes back into her office, and like peeks her head out from behind between a potted plant and a flag.
Yeah, there's like a potted tree and a flag, and there's maybe a 1 foot space in between. And she kind of crouches down in between and like watches this interview.
Right. Like craning her ear to hear what's being said. You know?
Yeah, it was really, I mean, and when we were in Rick Scott's office and we were told that he left the country, that was actually a lie.
Right. Oh, yeah, because we know he signed a bill at like 4:30 that afternoon.
We were there at 1:30.
Right.
He signed a bill in his office at 4:15.
Right. Right. Yeah. But let's get down more to what is really getting to Rick Scott right now, and it's this poll we talked about, and it was by St. Pete Polls. And I want to break down some of the other demographics here. We talked about how people overwhelmingly, almost 3/4 of the people, support medical marijuana. Almost 60% of the people support full legalization and end to prohibition on marijuana. The next one we didn't get to is, would you support a Florida constitutional amendment allowing for gay marriage? Now, that one could be a little bit of a misnomer because the way that was split, it was 46.34, 46.9 against, with 6.8% undecided. But quite frankly, the way that's worded, I don't like that. Because I don't necessarily want a constitutional amendment specifying what type of marriages are authorized. I just want to get government completely out of the business of marriage and just leave it up to the individuals. You know,
Yeah.
You know, government doesn't need to be involved in that. So that's kind of a weird one, and I wonder how much that factored in with people who just believe.
Who answered.
Yeah, with people who just believe government has no role in marriage. Because under those, the way that's worded, I might have to say no or unsure.
I would have to too.
Just because it's not that I don't want to prohibit anyone from marrying whomever they choose, but I don't necessarily want to just add people to the list who can get married. Let's just say government has no business there and nobody needs a marriage license.
And when you talk about a constitutional amendment, those are very, very hard to repeal. So once you put it in there, you know, if asked that question, I would actually have to vote no or undecided.
Right. But let's now go to the next question, which was worded, in next year's race for governor of Florida, do you support Republican Rick Scott, Democrat Charlie Crist, or Libertarian Adrian Wiley? 29.5% said Rick Scott, 40.1% said Charlie Crist, 8.7% said me, and 21.7% was undecided. That's a big undecided. That's a very big undecided.
Well, it just goes to show you that we're looking at between the other two, Crist and Rick Scott, is that it's really a race to the bottom.
Right.
Both of them are no good. You know, neither one of them are worth anything, and you know, so people are like, I'm not sure.
And for those of you with who have said that voting Libertarian splits the vote, and that, you know, if you vote Libertarian, you're just going to make sure that so and so gets in, the Republican gets in office, the Democrat gets in office. I want you to hear the political party breakdown in my numbers. Among Democrats, I have 6.9%, almost 7%. Among Republicans, I have 9.4%. And among independents, I have 11.1%. Now, that's a pretty across the spectrum. It's not like I'm overwhelmingly pulling from one group or another. It's fairly consistent across the board. Also, it's fairly consistent along the racial breakdowns. White non-Hispanic, I have 8.8%. Black non-Hispanic, 9.1%. Asian or Pacific Islander, 4.9%. Yeah,
you got to work on that.
We got to work on the Asian demographic.
Yeah.
I don't know why. It was a fairly small sample, though. There were only 41 respondents in that group. So,
okay.
Yeah, out of the over 3,000. Hispanic, 8.0%, and other or unknown, 9.6%.
You know, and this is when I saw this and it said other and unknown. I'm like, those are the libertarians.
Yeah, that's probably
I'm not
true.
gonna tell you
I'm
what
not
they
going to
say.
tell
I'm
you
not
that.
telling you.
Yeah, yeah.
Why do you want to know?
I thought the same thing. It's none of your business.
No, it's really good numbers, by the way. It really is good. It's good to see where you're at at this point. And there's a year and a half left. And this has been done,
Right.
folks, literally with no media attention whatsoever.
Yes.
Yeah.
With simply grassroots, going door to door, trying to get things done, busting it out, tons of volunteers doing tons of work. That's how this number got there. So we got to 8.6 without you, Adam Smith.
Right.
Yeah.
We'll see
Yeah.
how far we can get along with that. But I know that the Adam Smiths of the world, little commie, is not going to actually, talk about this stuff at all.
Right.
Matter of fact, we've heard reports, and again, this is we
Because
cannot.
we're friends with certain reporters around the state.
Right.
and
We've got a
there's-
lot of media contacts. A lot of them we've become close with over the years.
And, off the record, at least one or two journalists have said that they have been told by the higher ups not to
Right.
report on this poll at all.
Right.
And they
Think
didn't say
about that.
why. They
Think
didn't say
about that
why.
for a minute. This is a corporate decision not to even report the fact that I'm polling well.
Yeah, because this is earned media.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
I know you hear that. You've heard, I'm sure you guys have heard that talk before, but this is earned media.
Right.
If you get 8.7% in the polls, Libertarian, in August of the year before you have an election, they're supposed to talk about that.
Oh, well, that's
And
huge.
if they're not
Yeah.
talking about that, which they haven't done, some places have, so that's good, but a lot of places haven't. And the bias is about as clear as you can get.
And
right
it, like you were saying, if you think about the fact that we've done this with very little money, that we've done this with very little media coverage. We've gotten a little bit of media coverage on this, but
Some.
not nearly where it should be. And what's funny is they're ignoring, for the most part, they're ignoring the poll completely because they know they can't legitimately report on the poll without reporting on my numbers. A couple of media outlets have and just included Scott and Chris' numbers and just left me out
And then
completely,
all
which
this,
I find
when
hysterical.
and they'll say like Rick Scott is at 29%, Charlie Chris is at 40%, and then they stop. And it's
Where's
like,
the other 30%?
You lost 30%.
Right.
Unbelievable. It really is. It's about as obvious as you can get.
Well, and this is what, because we've been looking at a lot of the poll numbers through the campaign and everything, and this is one of the things that I thought was really exciting, is that, and we know Jesse Ventura won as governor of his state as a third-party candidate.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the, biggest known third-party candidates to win as governor. A month before his election that he won, a month before the election day, he was polling at 10%
Right.
and won.
Right.
So being at 9% right at that number, that's huge. That gives you, people have won polling at that number.
Yeah, and that's at us being 15 months out.
Right.
Jesse Ventura, again, and I can't stress how important that is. Jesse Ventura was at 10% a month before the election and won.
And won.
Right. So this is doable, folks, but it's going to require, a lot of help. We're not going to do it with corporate money. We're not going to do it with special interest
No.
money. We need you to get involved in the campaign because you can make this happen. Need you to donate, need you to volunteer. That's going to be critical. We need those 6,000 volunteers working hard on the ground. And we need to hit that $2 million campaign finance goal because my competitors are going to have $100 million each. To be competitive in this, we need at least a couple of $1 million to make it work. So I'm asking you, please, donate to the campaign. Go to wileyforgovernor.com, WYLLIEFOR, governor.com. Donate to the campaign. Sign up for the volunteer list. Help me make this happen, folks. And I'm going to take back my line that Governor Scott is now trying to use. Help us restore economic freedom and individual liberty in Florida. Take a stand. All right, that's paid political advertisement by Wiley for governor.
Yeah. You officially went over the line with that.
I kind of did, but,
Yeah, you did.
hey, Rick, you got a problem with that? Bring it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Bring it.
That's okay.
You know.
Yeah.
Now,
you can
let's
say,
get-
I'm Adrian Wiley and I approve this message.
Yeah.
Actually, this show is pretty much paid for by, us. So we are all part of the campaign. So
All right,
I
so-
think we could say that safely.
Okay, moving on.
You don't like that?
No, it's okay. It's okay. Back to the AFP thing. this Defending the American Dream Summit is labeled as, as an activist and how you can get involved and how you can do all this stuff and be more effective and all this kind of thing.
Yeah, vote Republican.
Yeah, let me
That's their only goal.
Let me tell you. I've gone to AFP events in the past. I've gone to other groups events in the past. And most of them are just wasting time. Not all of them. Some of them have actually been pretty good. But for the most part, all they do is complain about the problems and not about the solutions. You've seen this over and over again. And the other thing they do is they do these big 3-day summits. Look, man, you don't have 3 days to sit in one location. You people have lives to lead. People have to go and live life. You don't want to just sit to speaker after speaker after speaker drone on and on about the problems and the time frame. And they'll even tout, we're going to be solutions driven. I've seen those that go, we're solutions driven. And it's more of the problem. It's systemic. It is systemic. We've been working on an idea for quite some time. And it just so happens that some very, very good, great conservatives in Pasco County, I'll call them conservatives because that's what they call themselves. They don't call themselves Republicans. They call themselves conservatives. In a way to try to work together, me, Danielle, and a lot of this big group of people, we'll leave all their names out of it in case they wouldn't want us to say their names on public.
Which is a possibility.
It could be. They have decided that they wanted to put on an event, and they invited us to be involved in the event. And we were able to, because of the event we did an event a while back that was a candidate forum. And unlike other forums, I'm always an outside-the-box thinker and trying to really find out a new way to do something cool, is that we put on a candidate forum. It was one of the best forums that anybody's ever seen. People loved it. They loved the forum. I took that concept to an educational summit or a conference or whatever. So I took that concept and we put it all together for something called Florida Unity in Action. And if you go to www.floridaunityinaction.com, you can actually see this event. It's going to happen in October. It's going to be a one-day event, and it's going to happen over here in Pasco County. I highly suggest, if you did already buy tickets to the AFP event, go ahead and go because you probably can't get a refund. Watch that 3-day debacle.
Snooze fest.
Then come over here for a day. Bring a can of food with you. We're not charging you $100 to go. We need a can of food for the homeless because we want to make sure that we're helping out the homeless at the same time. Or
wait
shelter.
Wait a second. I have got a brilliant idea for you. I do have a brilliant idea for you as well. Go ahead. Okay. Why don't you say that anyone who brings a ticket stub from the AFP event gets in free?
No.
Everybody gets in free.
You got to give a can of food to the homeless guy.
You
want to take away
can
cans
of
of food from the homeless governor because of AFP?
Oh, I didn't realize there was no admission fee.
There's
I thought you were
no
asking for
admission.
a can of.
That's why you probably shouldn't interrupt in the middle of the haircut.
You still got to do something with that.
I'm not going to do anything with it.
You're not going to do anything with
No,
it?
I'm going to put on a better show. That's what I'm going to do.
Okay.
I'm going
Free
to do
market.
a better
I like that.
job.
I like that.
We're going to make sure that this event is bringing in basically 24 of some of the best single-issue groups that are out there. And again, you pick what you like.
Can you name the groups?
I can
Or
name some of the groups, yeah. Groups like Oath Keepers, Panda, which is People Against the NDAA, Floridians Against Real ID, JBS, John Birch Society, Liberty Empowerment Institute, Liberty First Network, Florida Fully Informed Jury Association, Ban the Cams, 10th Amendment Center, SAF, Save America Foundation, Kurt Schultz with the Soup Brochure, Suncoast Co-op, Florida Can, Florida Carry, and the Agenders.
Wow.
That's not all of them, but there's going to be more. But that's
a good lineup.
Oh yeah,
That's a really good
That's
lineup.
an action
And
lineup.
those are
Exactly.
all
those groups
action-oriented.
are actually have real solutions
and are
to the
fi-
problem
and
that
are
individuals
fighting
can
already.
do. Yeah.
And they're already fighting. They're already in the fight. This gives you the ability to be able to join in with them. But the way that we did this is pretty unique. It's 2 sessions. So it's set up in 2 different sessions. First session, 2 hours, 10 speakers or 12 speakers, 9 minutes a pop. They go up there, tell you who they are, who they're with, what their group is all about, how you can get involved, and what their breakout session is going to be about. Move to the next one, to the next one, to the next one. So you're going to sit there in the first 2 hours, and you're going to hear from 12 different people. They don't have time to ramble on and on about crap. They have time to tell you about what is going on with their group. You can take a look at the list of all of those 10 or 12, And you decide in the next 2 hours after that which breakout sessions you're going to go to, because there's breakout sessions that are going on that are 30 minutes apiece. So 30-minute breakout sessions, there's 4 different areas for breakout sessions, 30 minutes a pop, and then so it goes back and forth, one at a time. You got then you have lunch, and you can go around. There's going to be vendors and food trucks and all other kind of stuff there. Then you're going to have a second session that's going to happen again, 2 hours, and you're done. And that's it. It's a one-day thing, and up to 24 different groups are going to be speaking. These aren't like, and it's not like if you look at like AFP's event list, it's like Bobby Jindal. Look, what's Bobby Jindal going to tell you about
What
Florida
solution
politics?
is Bobby Jindal going to give you?
What solution is Bobby Jindal going to give you? None. Rick Perry. Rick Perry can't even name the departments that he wants to close down.
That he wants to close.
That he wants to close. Do you think Rick Perry's going to be able to do anything for you? No. Rubio. Well, we've already seen Rubio. I think we've kind of answered that question
I
already.
think the solution is to get rid of Rubio.
Yeah, the solution is to get rid of
Yeah.
Rubio. Could give us the solution by just saying, I quit.
I quit.
That would be nice.
Actually, a lot of those guys could do that. Yeah.
Yeah, a lot of them could.
Yeah.
So, and Michelle Malkin, again, entertainer. Again, not providing with you read
Sometimes she's
solutions.
entertaining.
As a newspaper, as a person that writes articles, yeah, I'll
Yeah.
go with that. You know,
She's witty.
she's witty at times, but I
But
don't.
what's the solution there?
There's
she's
no
got
solution. She's just a complainer, which, as she makes good money to be complaining about specifically liberals.
Yeah,
And I always think it's funny when an AFP does this, once a year, and they say, well, we're going to be all about action and all about solutions. And then you look at their list of speakers, and it's like, none of those people are going to give you a solution to anything.
Now, let me also say this too, and this is maybe a little bit of a shot at the people. One of the reasons that AFP does this, though, is because some of us in the movement don't necessarily go to some of these events unless you have the celebrity factor there. And so sometimes they pick these people up to come over there because they know they're going to put butts in the seats.
Right.
You got to not do that part anymore.
Quit being starstruck.
Yeah, here's the thing.
yeah.
There is absolutely no reason to look up to any of these people unless they're taller and you're trying to stare them in the face.
Right.
That is the only time that you should look up at them.
So I have to look up at actually everybody.
Yeah,
Those
you do.
people are
Yeah.
those people are your servants. They work for you because they use the government, because they're on the government dole. They work for you, not the other way around. You don't work for them. You should not be starstruck by Rick Perry or Rick Scott or Marco Rubio or any of these people. They are regular people. They are human beings just like you. And the difference is I have much more respect for you as an individual than I'll ever have for the scumbags they're going to put on stage in Orlando. Because those people, Rick Scott is a scumbag. Rubio is a traitor and a scumbag. Along with Rick Scott, actually, I would call him a traitor as well for what he did to the sheriff. Rick Perry is again, Google Gardasil in Texas. That's all you got to do there, because he forces inoculations on little girls. That's what Rick Perry does. And the other speakers there, whatever, you could take them or leave them. But what we did is we're bringing in John Hallman, Paul Henry, who are on the front lines in Tallahassee, Andrew Nappy, who is, when it comes to the states' rights and what the Constitution's all about, there are very few that are better than he is. We're bringing in, people like Francisco who understand when it comes to how to influence the vote in your local area. Again, we're not there to dictate to you that you got to work with us. We're there to say, here's everything that's out there. Here's the smorgasbord. Take what you want, find your passions, work your passions. Do it yourself, all by yourself if you want to, or do it with a group of people in your area, or do it with a Tea Party group if you want to. We're not telling you who you should be associating with. We're laying all the information out for you, and you can make the decision as to what you want to do. And the website's FloridaUnityInAction.com. So, and that commercial's done too. Then how about that?
This the
Paid
first
for and
hour is like an
sponsored by the Liberty
infomercial.
Underground
No,
show.
you know what the first hour is? The first hour is telling people the information that they need to know. Because to be honest with you, people need to know this crap. Because what I'm sick and tired of is people is organizations like AFP being respected in this state because they shouldn't be. AFP should not be respected. They should be considered the carpetbag and scumbags that they are. They hired a whole mess of people. got them all thinking, oh, we're going to be able to do this and be get paid at the same time. They cut them all. How many of those people are hurting financially now because of that?
Oh, yeah.
A bunch of them
yeah.
are.
A
Right.
lot of them.
They are.
So I don't even want to. And they made
And you know
moves.
what? And the one thing I got to say is a lot of those people have reached out to us and said, "Oh,
You were
wow, you were
completely
totally
right.
right. I'm so sorry that we didn't listen to you earlier."
Yeah.
yeah. And
A
you know,
lot of them.
yeah, that's happened on several occasions.
That
And
happened
it-
within the past 24 hours.
Yeah.
that happened within the past 24 hours. Oh, you got
Yeah.
somebody else reached out on
Somebody
that.
said that in the past 24 hours.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay, all right. Well, I meant specifically. I heard that a lot after the mass layoffs.
Oh, yeah.
Oh,
of
yeah.
The 2012.
Well, we had
elections.
people asking for meetings with us.
Right.
Basically
oh, yeah.
to say, I'm so sorry.
Yeah.
And you were right.
Oh, actually, yeah. I had one within the past 24 hours, too, that was very similar to that, which I can't go into detail in, but it was, someone in a very interesting position reached out to me and expressed a similar viewpoint. So, yeah, folks, don't align yourself with AFP. Or if you do, and if you want to go to this thing just for sheer entertainment, fine.
Yeah,
but
look,
understand what it is. This AFP is an organization that is designed to put any Republican in office, no matter what their policies, and to make sure that those Republicans that they put in office pass laws and sign bills that are positive to Koch Industries, that assist specifically Koch Industries and their part in the energy sector.
Now, and I know what people are going to say, by the way. I know that when you hear that, they're going to go, well, if they're good for Koch Industries, they're good for everybody.
No.
That's not the way it works.
No. This is
not
special
like-
interest
yeah.
stuff. This is special favors for Koch Industries. This is special legislation. This is not just things like libertarians propose that are across the board good for everyone, that are they're good, stimulate the free market, that actually stimulate all businesses, a tide that lifts all ships. This is what they're angling for, is just specifically things that are good for Koch Industries. That's where the problem lies. And AFP does not care who they have to put into office to get that done. It doesn't matter where they are on any other position. It doesn't matter where they stand on civil liberties. It doesn't matter where they stand on the debt. As long as they're going to do things that are going to benefit specific portions of the energy sector and specific companies within the energy sector, that's all AFP cares about. And they're spending a whole lot of money to make sure that these establishment Republicans get back into office. That's all they're doing.
And they provide them political cover.
Yeah, a lot of political
That's the
cover.
thing. That scorecard provides them political cover because they can go, well, I'm 100% on the AFP thing, and AFP is a good, grassroots organization.
Well, here's the thing. At least in Florida, and I can't speak for other states because we don't necessarily know what's going on in other states, but we know very well in Florida what's happening in the movement. And in the liberty movement, people are, first, they're starting to see that these politicians are not the guys they thought they were. And then they're seeing that AFP is not the organization they thought they were.
Yeah.
And AFP is going out of their mind right now to reduce my personal influence, to reduce all of our influences, and reduce the Patriot movement and the Liberty movement's influence on politics in general. They are looking to counteract the accomplishments that we've made towards real economic freedom for everyone and real individual liberties for everyone. And this is what this event is all about.
Yeah, swerve job all day long. But
Oh,
again,
yeah.
if you know that going into it, and look, there's a lot of people. There are people that have talked to me about going to this event. I'm going to go to this event. I'm excited. I'm like, good man, go. I want you to go to the event. Go to the event. I'm not going to try to talk you out of it because I want you to start understanding and seeing what's going on.
Right.
And the best way to do it is to go there and figure it out and go.
Yeah,
hey,
don't take our word for it. Go there, watch it yourself, keep that in the back of your mind, and evaluate for yourself if we're right.
Yeah, exactly. And it's little things. It's the little stuff that goes on in there that's the thing. Again, they're going to tout that they have classes in order to help you. But in all reality, they're not really trying to do that anyway, though. Again,
They want a single outcome, vote Republican.
Yeah, at the end of the day, they're going to say that's exactly what they're going to say. At the end of the day, vote Republican.
Right.
And that's why you have nothing but Republicans up there. Again, you have a race in Florida where the guy's getting 8.7%, and he's the libertarian, against Rick Scott, who economically has not had policies that AFP should be supporting.
Right. Oh, yeah. His policies are the complete antithesis of the stated mission of AFP, which is not their real mission.
Because whether you like it or not, Rick Scott is one of the central planners.
Oh, yeah. Absolutely.
He thinks he knows how to do it better than everybody else. So he goes ahead and goes up there, makes laws, against you and tries to close down businesses he doesn't agree with and tries to give extra money to businesses that line his pockets with political contributions.
Bingo.
Bottom line, guys.
Yeah.
There's no getting around that. And if AFP wants to put them as their keynote speaker, well, then you're allowed to do that. I'm not saying that you'd have to ban Rick Scott from being there. What I am saying is you're shills. This is the next exhibit into why you guys are shills.
Right.
I mean, you got a whole speakers bureau full of shills on that. On that, you're going to be on that stage. But I mean, what are we talking about here? Let's move on from that though, because it's bad enough that we got to have this guy as the governor of Florida. The Obama administration using housing department in an effort to diversify neighborhoods. This really is some nasty stuff here, and this is from it's actually from Fox News. In a move some claim is tantamount to social engineering, the Department of Housing and Urban Development is imposing a new rule that would allow the feds to track diversity in America's neighborhoods and then push policies to change those it deems discriminatory. I thought that we were supposed to be looking at people as the content of their character, not the color of their skin. I thought that was something, some great man said that. I don't remember who it is. Maybe Martin Luther King said that, huh? Maybe Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. said that. The policy is called Affirmative Furthering Fair Housing. It will require HUD to gather data on segregation and discrimination in every single neighborhood and try to remedy it. Federal control. So if there's not enough diversity in your neighborhood, they want to create policies to make diversity in your neighborhood.
Are they going to, bus people in?
I actually think this is a racist policy, by the way.
So if there's, too many Swedes in one neighborhood, they're going to say that we've reached our quota of Swedes in this neighborhood, and no more Swedes can move in.
They're going to tell people you can't buy that house?
Yeah. How are they going to enforce this? It's the most insane thing I've ever heard.
I don't know how they're going to do it. Data from this discrimination database would be used with...
And they specifically call it a discrimination database. Like the assumption is it's discriminatory.
Yeah.
There's some entity that is going around preventing people now. Oh,
From
you can't
buying
live in this
houses in
neighborhood.
certain
Oh,
neighborhoods.
no. Sorry. You're Hispanic. You can't live here. That doesn't happen.
That doesn't happen.
I mean, communities may have a certain racial mix-up by choice or by, people deciding, I want to live in this neighborhood, I want to live in this neighborhood, my family's there, my friends are, whatever. But there's no entity that is preventing people from moving in. In fact, you go to jail if you do that.
Right.
If you're a realtor and you tell someone, oh, well, you don't want to live in this neighborhood, there's a lot of white people there. You go to jail.
Right.
Well, you at least lose your license. I'm not sure if that's...
I don't know if it's jail,
I don't know if
but
it's
you can
jailable
lose
offense,
your license.
but it is an actual, state statute, and I know
Yeah.
has been enforced. So where is this coming from? What's the need for this?
Okay. Data from and I'm going to answer your first question that you asked me, though. Data from this discrimination database would be used with zoning laws, housing finance policy, infrastructure planning, and transportation to alleviate alleged discrimination and segregation.
Oh, I hate to use the Agenda 21 hammer on this one, but that's Agenda 21.
Oh, that's exactly
Totally Agenda 21.
Yeah, all day long. And they're just using race as a... they're playing the race card to implement Agenda 21 policies.
Yep.
That's
And
exactly what they're doing. And get governments to pay for it, i.e. get the taxpayers to pay for it.
This is what
That's
the central planners do.
Yeah.
This is why they're called central planners. They want to plan everything.
Yeah.
There's nothing they don't want to plan. They would like to be able to just take everybody and say, okay, we're going to go white, Hispanic, black, Asian, white, Hispanic, black, Asian, American Indian, white, Hispanic, black, Asian, American Indian. They'd like to set up neighborhoods like that and then force all of us to get together in like a big circle and sing Kumbaya. Because that's the way that you're going to have, preach diversity.
No.
But here's the thing.
That's not even
bring
their
you
plan.
to Kumbaya at gunpoint, and if you look wrong, they're going to shoot you.
But see, that's not even... that's their excuse.
That's what they're saying.
That's not their real plan. Their real plan is to acquire all that land that people own everywhere take it from the people and pack them into these dense urban areas with nice mass transit. That is the real objective. Folks, has nothing to do in reality with diversity. This has to do with the redistribution of real property. This has to do with telling people, I'm sorry, that 15 acres of land that you own out there, we've zoned this area a racial diversity zone, and you don't meet the racial criteria. I'm sorry, you're going to have to move to the city, and we'll find you a new job that fits within our criteria, and then you can take the mass transit back and forth to work. That's the kind of thing. And the underlying objection is the acquisition of resources by a very small, select group of what's called public-private partnerships, non-governmental organizations. That's really what it's about.
Yeah.
This is a transfer of wealth, so don't let anything else about the racial throw you off.
I understand. So it is funny, though, that you're watching this, and it's happening right before your very eyes. And the American people are seeing it, too, and they're mad. That's why, in all honesty, when we go and knock on doors, if they say Democrat or Republican, if we said Democrat or Republican, they'd slam the door in our face. We say Libertarian, they keep it open.
Right.
Because the people are waking up. We just need more Libertarians going door to door. But you're hearing about it every weekend. There's more and more of them going out there, educating their neighbors.
Oh, yeah.
And it's obvious by the poll. You don't get 8.7% on accident. You get 8.7% because you're doing something.
Right.
That's
right.
why you get that number.
And we're just starting.
Yeah.
We are just starting. That number's only going to grow.
Just the name Libertarian is just starting to be a good thing.
Oh, yeah.
You used
That's why a lot of Republicans like to steal it.
Yeah, right. Yeah, when you hear the talking heads saying how libertarian they are, we're doing something right. And more often than not, folks, they're lying to you. They're not libertarians.
Oh, they're nowhere even close. But, we go out to places and people used to say Libertarian. I don't know what that is. And now you go out to places and they're like, I've been hearing about that. I think I may be a libertarian.
Yeah.
So it's and like Alex said, we knock on a lot of doors, and now if you say you're from one of the other parties, they're ready to run you off. But you say, oh, I'm a libertarian, they're like, oh, okay, what do you got for me?
Right. Well, there's basically three parties in America. There's the two parties that want to control your life, control your money, and monitor every aspect of it. And then there's a party that believes in freedom and just wants to leave you alone and let you live your life as you see fit and not take all your money away.
Right.
Yeah.
Really? I mean, it's kind of a no-brainer.
Yeah.
And once people realize it, once people learn what libertarians stand for, it's an easy sell.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a piece of cake.
Yeah. And number 4 after that would be the Greens, but you don't want anything to do with them.
Well, the Greens are good on civil issues, but quite frankly, economically,
Greens
they're
aren't-
socialists.
Greens
They're
actually-
socialists.
Greens actually aren't even that good on civil liberties.
They're okay.
Yeah, they're
okay.
all right.
They're
They
good.
want to force everybody to.
They want to force everyone what?
They want to force everybody as well to be, more taxes.
Well, here's the
pay.
thing. They like the concept of everybody living in those dense little
Oh, yeah.
areas and, not affecting the rest of, anyone who sees
And they were subsidized
mankind.
by the LP, by the way. So
Yeah, let's not go there. I don't want to fight that battle right now.
That's a different rant.
Yeah, that's a different rant. And
I think
we
we-
may.
I can have that rant right now.
And
You
I
want
think
it?
we'd all
no,
have
we don't
that
have
rant.
time. We
I'll give you
got
double rant.
we got 2 minutes to break, so we don't
All right.
have time for that. But and it's something we should bring up actually. But anyone who looks at humanity, looks at mankind, and sees us as some sort of parasite on the earth, or sees us as incapable of, charting our own destiny, I reject that completely.
Yeah.
I believe that mankind is an amazing species capable of great and wondrous things. And throughout our history, we've fallen down a few times and we've done some really bad and stupid and in some cases evil things. But in general, we're on the right path.
Typically, those evil things only happen with government.
Exactly.
Yeah,
Exactly. They're when
exactly.
government gets too big and becomes too corrupt. And when government gets too big, tyranny is the inevitable outcome.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And evil is right there with it.
Yeah.
So, but be very leery, folks. Anyone who looks at humanity as something that needs to be managed, that something that needs to be controlled, that people in general are incapable of being intelligent, independent creatures, you watch out, folks, because those people are coming after your liberty, and they always have an ulterior motive.
They're all full of wonderment, full of amazement and wonderment. I love those people. I got to tell you, man, I still love that Jon Stewart one where he did Rick Perry, you know.
Oh yeah,
I love America. I want to make love to America. I want to lay America down on the bay and with the cacophony and.
Okay, all right, just stop before you get us in trouble. Oh, we don't have FCC right now, but we should probably stop anyway. All right, we'll be right back with an interesting interview from an author that I think you're going to find pretty good information in that. This is Liberty Underground on the 1787 Radio Network, and we'll be right back.
I tweet, you tweet. So follow us at twitter.com/1787network.
Greetings from Vitaline Incorporated, a Florida corporation based in Clearwater, Florida. This year, Vitaline Incorporated celebrates 26 years serving the medical community with associates around the state. How do they do it? Simply put, Vitaline Incorporated meets their medical needs by providing high-tech instrumentation and respiratory care with focused accessories to hospitals, long-term care facilities, durable medical equipment dealers, and physicians' practices. Our products are on display at VitaLineInc.com. Please visit us on the web for details on the products and services we offer. Vitaline Inc. is a proud sponsor of the Liberty Underground Radio Show.
Facts about the red light cameras. Fact, you are guilty until proven innocent. The Fifth Amendment to the U.S. Constitution grants you the presumption of innocence. Fact, red light cameras cause accidents. Accidents are up on an average of 40% at intersection with camera. Fact, cameras punish technical foul violations. Over 80% of tickets are written when the red light is on, under 1/2 second. Join the fight at www.banthecams.org. www.banthecams.org.
New technology is being unveiled by the 1787 Radio Network. The Liberty Underground Show is offering you, our sponsors, special rates on subliminal advertising.
You will buy advertising from us.
Studies show that subliminal advertising is 8,412% more effective than standard radio ads.
You will write us a check today.
Call 1-800-575-1787 today.
Call it now, right now.
For more information on your sponsorship opportunities, that's 1-800-575-1787 to get your ad running today.
At Auto Body Unlimited, they work with their hands and heart to provide outstanding high-quality work and customer service. They specialize in European automobile collision repair work and refinish. At Auto Body Unlimited, they bring your car up to manufacturer standards, or they will buy your car back. They have dedicated equipment and use the same processes and paint that you would get from the factory. At Auto Body Unlimited, they don't work for the insurance company, they work for you. Auto Body Unlimited is located at 1300 Sunset Point Road in Clearwater. Call 727-443-4041 or on the web at autobodyunlimited.com. Visit Auto Body Unlimited for all of your repair needs. They work for you. If you received a ticket in Florida, contact Oropesa Law Offices, 800-774-9883 or tacklemyticket.com. Attorney Oropesa understands the stress associated with being charged with a traffic ticket. In many non-criminal ticket cases, there may be no court appearance, no points, and no traffic school. Attorney Oropesa handles criminal violations, DUI, and license suspension matters. Don't face these serious legal matters alone. Initial consultation is free. Call now and you will be advised about any potential defense, constitutional rights violations, the possibility of having your driving privileges restored, or preventing a suspension from going into effect. If you've been classified as a habitual traffic offender, have a driver's license suspension matter, or a pending DUI case, call Oropesa Law Offices now so you can be advised about your particular case. Call 1-800-774-9883 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, or visit tacklemyticket.com. Main office in Pinellas County and serving all of the Tampa Bay area. Find out more at tacklemyticket.com. Mention Liberty Underground and get 25% off.
Liberty starts with a like. Facebook.com/Liberty Underground.
You know Going Postal offers shipping with UPS, FedEx, and DHL International, and they're a full-service post office. And Going Postal is not just your one-stop shop for shipping. They offer copying, laminating, faxing, packaging, and they even have a notary public service. Visit our friends at Going Postal at the following convenient locations: Palm Harbor at the corner of Tampa Road and County Road 1 in the Sweet Bay Plaza, St. Pete on 66th Street just south of Tyrone Boulevard near Publix, and be sure to visit their newest location at 35595 US 19 North at Alderman Road next to Publix in Palm Harbor.
You know the system is broken and you hear over and over again about the issues. Are you tired of attending monthly meetings, hearing about the problems, but never hearing about the solutions? Do you want to know how to be effective as an activist? The Neighborhood Project is a step-by-step plan on how you can restore the Republic, starting in your own community. This book was written to show you as an individual how to obtain and keep real political power in your own neighborhood and how this method is vital to restoring honest leadership at every level of government. This book is not reinventing the wheel. It is to show you how to pick up the wheel and use it. Go to 1787network.com and click on the Neighborhood Project logo to pre-order the book before our February 8th release. All pre-orders also include the Neighborhood Project workbook for free. The Neighborhood Project, your way to restore the Republic.
This is G. Edward Griffin, and you're listening to the Liberty Underground on the 1787 Network.
Welcome back to Liberty Underground. If you would like to, well, we don't have a call set up yet. I'm sorry. we got the phones this week, though. We got the phones this week.
That's right. We do have our toll-free number. We just got to get that all set up, all the logistics involved in doing that.
Yeah, no, we did.
But that should be coming real soon.
And I do want to make that mention since we did talk about it. I do want to thank Refresh Computers and Refresh Telecom for getting that thing set up, along with our new sponsor. You didn't hear a commercial for them this week. We'll get into this more later on, but it's Dead End Firearms. So let's get right to it, though. Now, because we did the new format, because we're doing the new format here, we haven't had any in-studio guests yet until now. So this is the first
not live.
Not live.
Yeah.
Well, we did one, but that was Hallman, and that wasn't a live. That was a whole separate thing. It wasn't part of
that was
the
a
show.
pre-recorded, right?
That was a pre-recorded. But we do have a guest today. She actually wrote a book called The Alphabet Games, The Numinous Protocol. Her name is Brigit von Schondorf. Did I get it right?
Very good.
Damn, I got it right.
Very good.
I was a little nervous going into it.
Ding, 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 ding.
Oh, a positive point for me today. I got positivity points today.
Oh, you haven't issued any demerits today so far?
No, I haven't. Well,
Wow.
you're going to get some later.
Okay, good.
I got demerits for Rick Scott and AFP today.
Yeah, we got a lot of them.
All right. She actually wrote now this book is actually a nonfiction book. It's about U.S. intelligence operatives, their incredibly dangerous and fascinating lives. It's the first book actually in a series of books that you're going to write. So first off, thank you very much for coming in studio today.
Thank you very much for having me. I really appreciate it. It's wonderful to be here.
Now, how did this book come about for you? I mean, I read some of the bio, and it doesn't seem like anything in your bio was necessarily in relation to this. How did you get to talk about this this subject?
I work a lot in Washington and do some different things, and I'm a writer and a journalist, and I have some very, very high level contacts and sources that I've developed over many years, and really, really deep friendships that have led me to having very candid conversations, and that's spilled in a lot of the things that I'd already summarized on my own and put together on my own with a lot of research. So it's a lot of blood, sweat, and tears in this one.
Oh, I bet. Now, if you, I watch some TV. In some of the TV I watch, some of the shows that I think that I tend to like more than others are ones like Burn Notice. I don't know if you've ever heard of this show or not, but it's one on USA. Now that talks about operatives. Now again, the guy was burnt, and there's a whole thing going on, but it does talk about a little bit about the network in there. Can you describe in the way that in the conversations that you had with these people, what kinds of things? And again, it's in the book, so if you want to know, you got to read the book as well. But what are some of the kind of the things that you would want to share, in the interview today about what what is going on within the intelligence agency?
Well, I think people have to recognize that with the agencies that in the current climate, a tremendous amount of people that don't have a tremendous amount of control or experience are reaching in and usurping credit for a lot of things that people have done for decades without their help.
Can you give an example of that?
Well, there's a lot of things that are in the media right now. Let me see if I can denote a specific chapter with regard to how the narrative relates to the book.
Now, are you saying so? For example, the intelligence community is doing things, and then the politicians are taking credit for it, or?
Well, yeah. I mean, there's a lot of people that are like I said, usurping credit for things that are going on. People have to understand, like when I bumped into you gentlemen before, that these agencies and these people are not political. These are not political animals. I mean, yes, there are the exception to the rule that there's a political person within a group and they do things for so said reason. However, as a group, these people are not political animals. These people work through and have to work through many administrations, within the constraints of, all of the things that are set up. And it's very, very difficult for them. The climate that we're in right now is very, very hard for them. They're much more used to being left alone than they are now.
Do you think that has to do with, and not just this administration, but this administration and the ones previous to this have treated like the director of the CIA as more of a political appointee? They are appointed politically, but instead of finding maybe the right person to do the job, they're finding the right political person to do the job, which may not be the same person.
Well, I think that's a pretty good assessment. If you look at specifically, I want to talk about the book. I don't want to talk about politics, but the book is political by default because it's nonfiction.
Yeah.
So it's just, there it is, boom, But the thing is that if you look at some of the appointees now, especially since we have this administration in for a second go-round, different positions are always used as payback, but some of the people that have been floated or gone to certain positions or certain embassy positions around the world are not usually necessarily people that you would think, would be inserted into said position.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So, just the recall this past week with all the embassies out of the Middle East and everything, it's just...
Now, that's a prime example. Do you see that as a political decision or an independent intelligent assessment?
Well, I think honestly with this administration, I don't know if there's anything that's done that isn't a political decision.
Yeah, right. No, absolutely.
And so, do I think that there are problems? Do I know that there are problems? Do we have a history of problems? Let's look back at Benghazi and everything else like that. We lost 4 very valuable people, and that are not easily duplicated. And then there's many other people that will have scars, be it physical or mental, that will last for their entire lives that we don't even know about yet.
Yeah. Now, speaking of that, though, there was actually a report, and we talked about this last week, how within the CIA itself, that some of the people that were involved with the Benghazi situation are being on a monthly basis being checked to make sure that they haven't talked to anybody in the media.
They're being polygraph tested.
Yeah, they're being polygraphed on a monthly basis. Was there anything about that?
But the thing is that if you look at everything that's going down, in my humble opinion, just as a citizen, this seems to be the leakiest administration that's ever been out. And it seems that they only leak when they feel that it's beneficial to them.
Like they use the
Right.
leak itself as a
But
political
then
tool.
they seem to get very upset when it's not to their benefit.
One of their controlled leaks.
Exactly.
Right.
There you go. So, and that's what people seem to be paying attention to, and that's really, this book is before most of that those issues went down. But this is something that this book really shines a light on, because that's a huge issue. Because the people that do this work, the people that do this heavy lifting day in, day out, this is not something, gentlemen, this is not something where you make a lot of money. This is not something where you get accolades. This is not something where people know who you are. This is the antithesis of that. That's most of what people seem to pursue in this country. People either want wealth, or they want notoriety, or they want all of these things. And these people go very much to the opposite side. So you have to understand that most of these folks are definitely really not political and on the side of good, because what motivates them is completely different than what motivates 99% of the populace.
And what would you say that motivational factor is for most of your contacts for the book?
For me, I think it's preservation and survival instinct and guilt, and is a really good way. Guilt, in a good way, because people work very hardly, very very hard at what they do, and they're very concerned about the direction of the country, and they feel a great deal of guilt to provide for the people that come after them, to pay it forward. They realize that we've been in a unique position in the world, and with what we've managed to accomplish with a single mindset as a people from all over the world, the wretched refugees from all over the world that have come here, that have built the country, and the prosperity that our system, although imperfect, has provided.
But guilt is an interesting choice of words there. What would you say that guilt stems from? Do you feel that it's the operatives themselves, or the agents or analysts? Are they feeling guilt for what they've specifically done?
No, not at all. And I don't want it twisted like that.
Okay, I wasn't
we
sure.
want you to clarify.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, no. Guilt, maybe not the perfect choice of words, but guilt for just wanting to pay it forward, knowing. See, the perspective is unique. Americans are very sheltered, and when you go around the world, you see that the reality is not very pretty. I mean, there's a select few places around the world where things are, but barely like here, in control. And then there's the preeminent amount of the world where things are basically completely out of control 24/7, and have been that way for a very, very long time. And Americans just generally, as a rule, don't get that picture. And so
because they don't see it. Like they don't go out there. Like they don't go to the other countries.
They're
and
not
see it.
exposed to it. And when they do go somewhere, they're usually older, and it's the Bob and Meg bus tour, and it's look here, look there.
Right.
I mean, I have people come back from China, and they say how fabulous it is, and how beautiful it is, and how wonderful. And the whole time that you're there, your head is moved. Here, look here, see this, see this, see this. But you can't take your devices. You're hacked the whole time you're there. People have absolutely no idea of what's really going on. And so our perspective is really stilted. And then when they get back here, most people take things for granted, terribly for granted. And when these operatives come back home, when these people come back home from most of the places that they go or get sent, the disparity between what we have and what people take for granted and what other people have, not that it's our fault or their fault, certainly it's not. It's up to people's selves and their governments to work hand in hand together, that they all make their choices.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah, no, absolutely. Now, in the book, you talked about incredibly dangerous and fascinating lives. that would lend me to believe. And again, I haven't read the book yet, so I have not done that
Well,
yet.
I'm looking forward to you doing that.
No, thank you. Now, when you talk about those things, I imagine some of that information is in the book itself. So you're going to get some of these stories. Now you're getting it directly from the person that was involved in that situation. So it's a pretty close enough to where it would be considered nonfiction. So it's a close representation. Are some of those stories in the book?
Direct operational accounts.
Oh, completely. There's operational information completely in the accounts. Of course, the names have been changed, for obvious purposes.
Well, yeah, absolutely.
For people's safety. If you look in the front of the book, besides the advanced reviews, you'd see that we haven't done this in the media, but the dedication was to CIA Director General David Petraeus, because what happened to him was ridiculous.
Oh, I mean, that was that. It seemed like that. Now that seemed like one.
Are you talking about the story of his affair? Or?
Oh yeah,
Okay.
it should have been something that was behind closed doors. That was.
You actually believe that?
Between a couple, it shouldn't have been. The situation was.
Why do you think that it ended up going public?
I think that's a flash forward to some things that we talked about earlier.
Okay. Because it turned into a political thing.
Oh, it's a football.
Now, with this, because there's a lot of talk, and again, we're a very, very libertarian show, I guess, in that aspect. And
That's
so
good.
there is definitely some things when it comes to national defense that we support national defense, and we actually support, the ability to be able to make sure that we defend this country. With that, sometimes the CIA and organizations like this, they get a bad rap. And they get a bad rap.
Deservedly so.
Well, but here's the thing, though. Do you think that, let's go with the spying on American citizens, that what's going on when it comes to PRISM and some of these other things. These are things that are directives from politicians. They're the ones that are saying to do these things at certain levels, and then they get directives. Well, you have to make sure that this happens and this happens and this happens. Do you think that the pressure that's coming from politicians, in addition to the pressure that's coming from the world that we're living in nowadays, lends itself for overreaches where you're having that, and the people talk a lot about, well, there needs to be this balance between liberty and security. Well, I would say that there needs to be a balance, or that we need to make sure that we're following the Constitution at all times.
Man, you're really dancing around the question. What's your opinion of Snowden's revelations about the NSA PRISM program spying on all Americans?
Okay, well, I'm going to make your listeners mad. He's a traitor. And I'm sorry for making people mad, but I'm just a very, very much a straight shooter. People in the alphabets are faulted for a lot of things that they're not responsible for. They have a very hard job. They have to walk the line between political BS and what they actually have to get done. Now realize that whoever is in at the time gets gone to with, hey, this is the problem we're having. This is what the deal is. This is what we need to find. How do we do this within the constraints? And so many, many times the people in the alphabets, which is something that's in here too, even though there's not a lot of cyber in here, there'll be more cyber stuff in the second and third books and things like that, because this was, a couple of years. But anyway, the point is that their hands are tied, and based on who they're working with, their hands are tied more or less. So what the job that they're doing, let's put it this way, the job that they're doing in the environment that they've been put into right now is impossible.
I couldn't disagree with you more on that. And let me just explain why. I believe that each individual who works in those alphabet agencies, they all swore an oath to uphold and defend the United States Constitution. Now, they have a hard choice to make. But if they were actually true to their oath, and if, in my opinion, they were true American patriots, they would not do those things. They would not violate the Fourth Amendment. They would uphold that oath that they took and resign. So I believe that it's not really a valid argument to say, oh, well, they're in a difficult situation. They have to do. No, they don't have to do. They don't have to follow those orders.
Well, hold on. Let me say something as well here. It's funny that I'm going to take the middle of this whole thing. The point I think I was trying to make beforehand is that they get into these positions for, and I think that the word guilt that you were using is actually a guilt that we're a free country, and so they want to make sure to protect it, and so they feel like they have to do all they can to be able to protect it.
But they're protecting it, quote unquote, by destroying it.
Middle of the haircut, guy. Middle of the haircut again.
All right, shoot.
All right. But I think though that systemically, the problems that have come in are systemic and also political problems. That I think that what you're seeing right now is what's coming out is this information is not being used just by the CIA or the FBI. It's being used by local law enforcement. It's being used by the DEA. Right. It's being used by all these other organizations that are not about national security. They're actually about, catching domestic people doing wrong things, but not terrorist-related things like just the drugs or something along those lines.
But regardless, I view any of those individuals on an individual basis as traitors if they violate their oath. It doesn't matter what this... I mean, I agree with you completely. It is a systemic problem, but it is the individuals
well, here's the thing, though,
that allow that to happen.
Okay, but here's the thing. What you have to fix, though, is you have to fix the systemic problem, though. Either way, you got to fix the problem, because just the guy quitting doesn't fix the problem. And this is where I would disagree on this.
If there's some overreach, because there's been some problems obviously around the country with local police forces and things like that. If there's some overreach or problems like that, those are not problems that these other people can be blamed for or anything like that, because
part of it. I agree.
Because the whole issue here is basically most people are dealing from the point of view where the information that they're getting or that's getting out, or a small sliver of the information, they're playing in a school gymnasium. And what I'm talking about is playing in a stadium, and it's a whole different ballgame.
But my question is more. For example, and we'll take it on a real personal level. If the NSA is recording my phone calls, if the NSA is recording my emails, potentially monitoring my emails, if they are recording my activities online, do you see that as those individuals involved in that process as violating the Fourth Amendment?
Okay. Well, I can't answer that as a yes or no question, because they're not recording in the way that you think they're recording. What you're referring to is called signals intelligence, and all they're doing is looking at numbers. They don't care what you're doing or what you're saying or what your Facebook pictures are. When they do things, they're capturing. They're looking for patterns in numbers, and once those patterns are found, then things are sorted out and things go on from there.
Okay, but they are recording that data.
But that data that you're referring to has been done. It's been, everything on the internet has been looked after since it started.
I agree.
Since the mid 90s.
Sure, Echelon initiated.
But that's just actually there's another program too, and that's just a function of where we're at. I mean, that's just a function of technology. That's where we're at. I mean, it's not a matter of us having a choice or someone else. If you look at things, if you think that other forces at work in the world aren't doing the same thing, or maybe didn't even beat us to it, they don't care about the average person. They're looking for patterns with regard to preventing things here and abroad. That's it. And I am not in agreement with the current admin with regard to any of this at all. I don't care what their narrative is.
Yeah. Yeah, I get, and this is the last. Well, first off, I again, because I love watching shows like Burn Notice, like spy things are definitely one of those interesting topics, because most of the times it's like a spy guy is going out by himself and he's a undercover.
Right, it's the whole
country.
007 or 24 type. Yeah. Is that how it is?
But that's the way it
media
is.
Portrays it.
Right.
Many times, but that's only the section of clandestine that's actually clandestine, as opposed to everybody else and all the analysts and everything. I mean, it takes so many people to move this ball down the road. If people really understood what went in to making it the way that it is, making it safe, making it so that the air is not poisoned and that we're safe and we have clean water and clean air and a clean food supply and all these other things. If people really understood how much it took to keep this ball up in the air.
Well, I think
that actually brings
that's
me
a false
that
argument.
hold on. No,
Yeah.
that actually does bring me another question, and this is a question when it does come to transparency. It is my understanding that when it comes to all kinds of government documents, that all of them have a certain point in which they become public information, and I believe that is 50 years. That after 50 years, all of the information becomes public information. Do you think, and this is only your opinion, of course, do you think that the 50-year time frame is a good time frame, or should it be shorter? And the reason that I say should it be shorter is this. There are many things that I do believe that the American people should be more privy to, if not only for the reason that if things are as bad as many times we've heard that they could be, that giving the American people the information would actually be a good way in which to ease those fears or whatever. Do you think that the amount of secret information should go down, should go up, or do you think that cutoff where everything's public after so many years?
Well, not everything is. There are certain levels of intelligence that are never released.
Oh, okay. Well,
yeah.
I would actually prefer that after a certain, again, because it needs to have operational value in order to be secret. If it no longer possesses that operational value, then making it public does not damage anybody that's on the ground, because you don't want to put anybody in danger.
Sure, you never want operational intelligence.
Yeah, absolutely. What do you think about that?
See, but it's not a matter of it's not a matter of a time frame. It's a matter of what it is. Okay, so let's take the two big issues that we've dealt with during this administration in the past little bit. Okay, let's take Manning and Snowden. Okay, All right. So they've cost our country, our taxpayers, so much money that I don't even know where to put the figure. They've put people, real people, like the people that you and I are sitting at this table, flesh and blood, and installations in danger, in serious danger.
Can you cite an example of that? Because I actually, and I partially might agree with you.
I can't. Because, well, for example...
It's all right, I have a secret security clearance.
For example...
You can tell me.
PFC Manning, for example, okay? One of the things he did was collate everything. There was no need that needed to be collated. There was no need that needed to be, made easier. Because we have a free society, we have somewhat free exchange of information. It's better than pretty much anywhere else on the planet.
Well, see, you just wait a second. You had a conflict there in a single sentence. Because we have a free society, you said we have a somewhat free flow of information, and we're better than everyone else. That's not good enough for me.
Okay, well.
Now, but I do want to go back to the Bradley Manning thing. I have held the position that I haven't seen any specific item where he released operational intelligence that put U.S. Either soldiers or assets in direct harm's way. If I had seen something like that, I may have changed my opinion and said, yeah, he did damage. He may have committed treason. I haven't seen it yet. So my question to everyone on this issue is, can you cite me an example of something that Bradley Manning released that was information that actually put an operational assets in harm's way?
Okay.
And I just haven't seen it.
Okay. Well, you have to realize that a lot of information like that isn't going to get out, because if
he's released it's already public.
Anybody tells you or Congress or me or anyone else, then it's out there. Then they're telling our enemies as well.
But again, that's a logical disconnect, because if Bradley Manning released the information if he released the information should be out there already. And
well, I said he did release it, but he collated things. He did a lot of things. And just because you can do something doesn't mean you should.
I take the opposite approach. I think that Bradley Manning and Edward Snowden are whistleblowers exposing illegal activities by our government.
Okay. Well, there are definitely bad apples in the mix. There's bad apples in the mix in anything, in any organization, in anything. Period. Has there been some overreach? Maybe, and whether you'll never know, and neither will I. But for the most part, everything that is done because it has to be, not because they want to be. And it has nothing to do, like I said, I'm not in support of this
Sure.
admin. I'm in support of the groups.
But why does it have to be?
Because people are gathering signals intelligence, and without it, we wouldn't have the warnings that we do, and we don't have, as a country, what we have as far as things to use against the forces that want to sink us all of the time. It's not enough. It's a constant race for survival.
Okay. And again, you guys, the good thing about the show is that we will definitely bring people on when it comes to certain things where we have some agreements and some disagreements.
And I do want to say,
it's a good, healthy dialogue.
You've been a trooper. You held your own. This was obviously not an easy interview for you, and you did well.
It's not a problem.
Yeah. Now, if people wanted to find more information out about the book, where can they go? I mean, I could read it off, or you can.
They can go to www.thealphabetgames.com. Like I said, this is a first book in a series. There's a buy now button on the site, or they can go directly to Amazon.com. It's got a white cover. It looks like a ransom note.
It does look like a ransom note.
It's got a big eagle on it. That's what the intent was.
Buy this book, damn it!
And it's a softback and a Kindle book only. So,
yep, no, we understand that part.
And it's a short read, and we made it really inexpensive and fun and fast, so that people could get it, so that it could get out to the average person, and it wouldn't be. And
there's some juicy bits in there about spy stuff and stuff like that. So
there's operational things. It's a very psychological book. It's pretty much the most intensely intimate open source that's ever been out there on this topic. So it's kind of unique in the world. It's certainly not something that you would expect to be written by a Czech.
We didn't bring any of that part of it up. Now, no, we won't bring any of that stuff up. That would diminish what the reason for the book is all about.
No, it's okay. It's okay. So we have a sense of humor.
No, we got to be able to laugh at the same time. The website again is the alphabetgames.com. Brigit, I really do appreciate you coming in today and going through this. I think it's going to be really, really. I'm actually going to I'm going to read the book and give my thoughts on it. So
yeah, send it my way when you're done. I am curious to read it now.
Okay.
I may not agree with all the conclusions, but I think I'll enjoy it.
A lot of people worked really hard on it, so it's something that I'm pretty proud of.
Okay, great.
Outstanding. Well, thanks so much for being with us today.
Appreciate your time, gentlemen. Thank you.
All right, and going into another angle on this, speaking of Edward Snowden. There's been an interesting little thing that the intelligence community may have been doing to the company that encrypts Snowden's email. And that company is called LavaBit, and they just put out a statement. And I'm going to read you the statement verbatim here because it's pretty interesting. The statement is, quote, and I assume this is by the owner or the president of the company. I don't have his name in front of me now. But it says, quote, I have been forced to make a difficult decision to become complicit in crimes against the American people or walk away from nearly 10 years of hard work by shutting down LavaBit. After significant soul searching, I have decided to suspend operations. I wish that I could legally share with you the events that led to my decision. That's an interesting point. He says he wishes that he could legally share with us the events that led to his decision. Quote, I cannot. I feel you deserve to know what's going on. The First Amendment is supposed to guarantee me the freedom to speak out in situations like this. Unfortunately, Congress has passed laws that say otherwise. As things currently stand, I cannot share my experiences over the last 6 weeks, even though I have twice made the appropriate requests. What's going to happen now? We've already started preparing the paperwork needed to continue the fight for the Constitution in the Fourth Circuit Court of Appeals. A favorable decision would allow me to resurrect LavaBit as an American company. Now, let's read between the lines on this statement. And this statement obviously was said in such a way that was within the terms of the Patriot Act. For those of you who don't know, if you are engaged by the intelligence community under the Patriot Act, you are prohibited by telling anyone about it. You cannot even say that that's what's going on. So that's obviously what's happening here. Keep in mind, this is the company that Snowden uses to encrypt his email. So, if you put two and two together, folks, you know exactly what happened. The NSA, the CIA, the FBI, whomever, probably all of them, and then all the other alphabet agencies are coming to him and saying, we need the encryption key for his email. We need to be able to crack this, which is actually surprising, and it's kudos to LavaBit, because the NSA has amazing ability to crack, ciphers, whether it's AES, no matter what it is, Swordfish, all the various different encrypted methods. Lava must be doing something right. And I haven't personally used them. I do use other encryption services. And what happens today is a lot of these services will encrypt that information multiple times with multiple, 256-bit keys, 1024-bit keys are even starting to happen now. So you've got a lot of, I think they're up to 2048 if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, I think they are
2048-bit keys, but the NSA has these supercomputers that their entire focus is designed to break those encryptions. Right. So this tells us that they basically forced a U.S. company into the position of having to make the moral decision whether to give up their encryption algorithms and give the U.S. government the means to crack these emails or to shut down. And they took the high road and shut down. And I want to say to LavaBit, phenomenal job, guys. Way to stand up.
Yeah, that's incredible.
It's absolutely astounding. I can't congratulate you enough, and you have my utmost respect for standing on principle. And it's just like I was speaking with Brigit in the last segment. I believe that if we want to restore freedom, we can't give these people a pass. We can't give these companies a pass for just rolling over. We can't give the individual federal agents, the individual, even the lowest level worker within these alphabet agencies, if they know they are violating the Constitution, then they are no better than the system that forces them to do that, because they're not being forced to do that.
Right. You have a choice. When you're at your job, you always have a choice. Is it a hard choice? Of course it is, but these things are never easy. But, if you were working anywhere else and your employer was doing something just absolutely illegal
or completely unethical
to where you knew that people's rights were being violated, you would leave. You would say something. You would tell someone. And to think that because you work for a government agency, all of a sudden you can't be human anymore. You can't have those same human reactions to someone violating someone else is just ridiculous. You're basically saying that if you work in government, you have to have the same empathy for people as a criminal would and just not care.
Right, which is, no empathy at all. Right. You have to have the same level of empathy as a psychopath.
Right.
Because the definition of a psychopath is someone who completely lacks empathy for others. That's why they can commit the atrocities that they can commit. And the other side of the coin is, we can't give these individual agents a pass and say, it's a system. It's, folks, that didn't work at Nuremberg.
Right.
The following orders defense is not a defense. But unfortunately, that is a psychological propensity of people to do things that they would never do if they were the ones making the decision on it. But once that authority, and I forget what that study was, done in the late 1950s, early 1960s, the study where they just took individuals off the street and put them in a situation where they thought they were administering an electric shock to a person in another room, and they would continuously up the voltage until they actually got to the point where they thought they were killing the other person. And they showed a tremendous amount of personal
anguish.
Resistance to doing that, but because there was just some guy in a lab coat
Who
telling
they
him to
thought was an
continue.
authority.
Right. The authority figure was telling him, no, keep going, no, keep going, no, keep going.
Most
They
of
did
the
it.
people will do it.
Yeah. And that is the one of the greatest flaws. You know, I'm sure it's some deep-rooted biological, survival instinct, part of our, our social nature. But we have to buck that. We have to resist that instinct, because that is what tyrants and mass murderers and totalitarian governments have depended on for decades and centuries.
And we need to show our support for the people who won't do it.
Right.
And the people who don't, won't just say, well, I was told to do it and it must be okay. The people like Edward Snowden and Private Manning and things like that, Bradley Manning and the people, and even to an extent like us that will just say no.
Right.
I don't care what you say.
Right.
And I think that, there's always this back and forth. Well, are they, should we, congratulate them or should we hate them? Even if you don't like what they did, the fact that they wouldn't just lay down and do nothing has to say something.
Right.
And, that they thought people were being wronged. They thought our rights were being violated and that there was corruption, that there was this criminal things going on. And they didn't know what to do, but at least they did something.
Right.
And that should be celebrated and congratulated.
Yeah, and I think that I would encourage everyone listening, take a few minutes and get in contact with LavaBit and thank them for taking that principled stand. Thank them for standing up. And obviously they can't tell us exactly what happened because of the rules. But we know that they are taking a stand. They are shutting down their company so they don't have to betray their customers or clients and the Constitution. And they specifically said it in there. So, I think I think they did a phenomenal job. Reach out to LavaBit and tell them you agree.
Yeah, absolutely.
So what'd you think of that interview?
I thought it was interesting. I think it shows you, my opinion on it is this. I believe that the problems are systemic. I understand what you're saying is that people just need to...
Oh, I agree with that. The problems are systemic. But we were just talking about that.
Yeah, I think that we need to focus on... And so I try to make sure that I focus on what the solution is, because it is real people that are doing these things. And I wish things like that wouldn't happen when it comes to the violations, and they would be willing to stand up. It was almost like watching that video, one of the
Alex Jones one?
The Alex Jones video about the drones.
I know which one you were talking about.
Like that, I can see that that's probably a problem. That is probably one of the things that these guys are having to go through, because the pressure has got to be intense. And then the second when something goes wrong, like the Benghazi thing, because now they're being pressured on a monthly basis that you talk to the media, and if they're doing that to you, that's got screw this administration for doubling down on making these things political.
Yeah, I mean, just to know that, when you're being told, well, you have to take a lie detector test to make sure you haven't talked to any senators or congressmen.
Right.
And you have to wonder, wait, what? These are the people that are supposed to be making the decisions for the country, the people that are supposed to represent us, and I'm not allowed to even talk to them. Like, I understand the media to an extent. Like, I could see how that could be sold to someone. You don't want the media involved because, we have secrets. There's things going on here that could put other people in danger if it got out to the public. And I could see someone being able to rectify that in their conscience, saying, well, yeah, I don't want to put anyone else in danger, so I can't talk to the media. But when they also say, have you talked to any congressmen? I think that's where I would question it and say, but why is that an issue?
And I think that's also why you see the leaks that are coming out that aren't the controlled ones, is that people are witnessing this. They are seeing this, and they're wanting to do something about it. You think so? You think that's probably the case? All right.
Well, and I think that's why, the concept behind an organization like Oath Keepers is so important.
Yeah.
Is because, really that's the bottom line. Because you're not going to fix the system. The system is corrupt. The system is gone. The only way to do it is to starve the system. And the way we starve the system is by individuals disobeying, and specifically individuals who are in the position to do this. The law enforcement agents, they need to say no.
Right.
The agents and the analysts and the operatives within these alphabet organizations, they need to say no. Until that happens, we're not going to starve the beast. That's how we starve the beast.
Yeah.
No, that's a fair point. Be honest, and that's a fair point. That's why I would not want to take a job with the CIA to begin with. But it's also what I saw when I was in the military. You saw the systemic problems when you were in the military, and you had to make a decision at that point. Are you going to stay in and deal with it, try to fix it, which ain't going to work, or are you going to get out? At that point, I chose to get out. Now it wasn't nearly as cool as I'm making it sound right now. I was supply, man. It's my systemic problem was
purchasing
officers that come into the Marine Corps that don't know crap that are going to tell you what to do, and that the rules are set up to give them the ability to do that. Like
you do have a little trouble with authority there.
Well, here's the thing. Look, I ran a supply shop that was a great supply shop. We did good work. We were the accolades of all of the region. And you have a guy that spent 4 years in college, has never done my job, comes in, now is in charge of the job that I do. Like, you don't know what the hell's going on in here, boot. I mean, that's you green ass, butter bar guy. I don't need you. But then to watch like the gunnery sergeant and the master sergeant, that no matter how high in the ranks they got in the enlisted ranks, there was still some officer telling them what to do, and they still had to go, yes sir, no sir, yes sir, no sir. I'm not going to put up with that. And you're right. It's because of my anti-authority positions, I guess. But I think it's because I'm a human being, for Pete's sake, and that I want to be free, and I don't want to have to deal with BS.
Well, so you were just saying that you were always a libertarian.
Yeah, I'll go with
that. Yeah. I always was a libertarian.
I think that honestly, I do think that it is a mindset too, though. Like libertarian, I think it's a certain mindset that you have to take in your core that you're a free human being and you can do it. You can do what you want. But you also have to have a little faith in humanity.
Yeah, that is
important. It does
important.
require a faith in humanity that is not required if you're a Dem or an R. You do not have to have a faith in humanity.
No, in fact, if you're a Dem or an R, you have to have the opposite position, is that people are incapable of running their own lives.
You have to legislate it.
Right, and that without strict control of the government, society will just collapse into chaos, and that's not the case.
Yeah. Well, that's a lack of faith in humanity, or a lack of faith.
Exactly.
It
so
takes
in order
some
to
kind
believe
of government
that,
to do that,
yeah. So in order to be a Democrat or Republican and believe that, you have to have no faith in humanity, and you have to believe that people are stupid. To be a libertarian, you have to have faith in humanity, and you have to believe that people are, for the most part intelligent and for the most part do the right thing. And I believe that absolutely. I believe the vast majority of the people will do the right thing the vast majority of the time. So that small little segment of people that won't, or that occasionally do the wrong thing, you just deal with those on a case-by-case basis.
Right.
You don't need to set up the entire system to control every aspect of people's lives for that very small contingent that's going to do the wrong thing.
Well, and I think that we also look at it as that small contingent is going to do it regardless of the regulation or the legislation. So you didn't do anything.
Right.
You only stopped good people from having freedom, and the bad people are still going to be bad because it takes a certain kind of person to be bad. And they don't say, oh, well, I'd go kill someone today except that darn law. Well, no, that's ridiculous.
Yeah. And I really challenge people out there listening. If you listen to the show and you don't necessarily agree with us, ask yourself the question, do you believe that people are good? And do you believe that most people are capable? And if you don't agree with us, I think you'll find that it probably stems from somewhere along those lines. Mm-hmm. You're either going to believe that most people are not good, you're going to believe that most people are stupid. And if that were the case, how did civilization get to the point where we're at? How did we get here to this pinnacle of humanity?
America was only around for a couple hundred years. Civilization's been around a lot longer than that.
Right.
And I always look at it like when you're in a store, and, every once in a while, like something was on the bottom of your cart or something, and you walk out to your car and you go, oh, I didn't put this on the cart to pay it. And I think the majority of the people actually go back in.
Yeah. Yeah, I do.
Are there some people that just say, well, I didn't get caught, nobody's coming after me, and, it's a hassle to go back in? Yeah, some people do that. But I think the majority, even though there's a law against it, but you know you'd gotten away with it, there'd be no punishment because
Right.
you're at your car.
Right.
They'll still go back because it's the right thing to do.
Yeah.
Regardless of a law, regardless of a punishment, it was just the right thing to do.
Yeah. Yeah. And I sincerely believe that.
Yeah, look, I don't think, and this is where I think it's where the philosophy of libertarianism, and we talked about this actually a couple nights ago.
Yeah.
About the one thing that is not talked about within the libertarian movement itself, or within the Libertarian Party itself, is not necessarily what libertarians believe per se. It's that what their beliefs would allow around the country. Let me be more specific on this.
Yeah.
If you had a full libertarian House and Senate in Washington, D.C., and they passed all the laws and rules that were set up in a way in which each state is free to do as they wish, as long as they're respecting the rights and the Constitution and all that stuff, that because of that, because of the rules that are being set up at that point, it would allow for state governments to do more than what the libertarians may be happy with. But because they believe in the state has the control to do what they want, they'd be able to do it.
Well, when you start believing that the local government, the people in the local government can have a little more control and can do the things, I think, most libertarians would say, no, that's a bad thing. We don't want the local government to make these rules and make that. But if that is really what we believe, that at a local level, if you want the public to all voluntarily put their money in to build a library, well, they should be allowed to do it. Why wouldn't they? And even though we would say, on a larger scale, like at a federal government level, even at the state government level, that may not be the proper role of government. If the local community wanted it and was willing to pay for it and wasn't going to take money from any other community to do it, we would think that was okay.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. We don't necessarily have a problem with that on a local level. And basically, if you look at it from a purely historical and purely, philosophical, for lack of a better term, angle, all these isms, you take any ism you want and you apply it to a small community where everybody agrees with that particular ism, it's going to work.
Right.
The problem is when you ramp it up to a large scale and you start to get people who don't agree with that, you have to come to the conclusion that the only fair and honest and decent way to take the approach is to give everybody, freedom.
Right.
Allow people the ability, within a certain scope that everyone agrees on is wrong, to be free. And that's all we promote. That's all we seek. We can all agree that people shouldn't kill each other. Well, with the exception of those psychopaths we talked about earlier, and they just...
The law wasn't going to stop them anyway.
Exactly. So that's kind of how we get to where we're going.
No, it's completely understandable. What we have to do is we have to be willing to accept other people to be free in order for us to be free. That the second that you're like, well, I'm going to make a rule for one and not for another, that's when you're running into problems. And that's what we have right now. And that is the major issue that we're dealing with in this country, is that people want... Obamacare is a great example of this. Remember, we had the article. We didn't get to it last week. The IRS chief, he doesn't want to switch to Obamacare. Well, they made a law on that guy. You should have been speaking up beforehand.
Right.
The unions didn't want to have that. We don't want Obamacare. We want a waiver. Should have thought about that before. Now we don't have anything that we can do other than to defund it. But then that's all. Oh my God, we're going to try to defund something this is such an attack and an assault on human freedom. It's not even funny. Things like Obamacare and what these central planners do is horrible. And the only way that it's going to be fixed is if you get rid of the central planners and you elect people into office that understand that they are not smart enough to live your life.
Well, yeah, and that's what it all comes down to is, you have the vast majority of the two-party system think that they're the ones that should be the ones running your life, and you have people like us that say, no, you should be free to run your own life. I don't know how to run your life. I don't live it every day. I'm not there with you every second of the day. So you need to be, you're the only one that's going to be able to make those choices effectively.
Exactly. But it's that time again. We do need to take a break. And your mic's down. We're having a little problem with your mic that I'm going to have to look at. So, but we're going to go to break now. We'll be back in just a few moments. This is Liberty Underground on the 1787 Radio Network.
I tweet, you tweet. So follow us at twitter.com/1787network.
Greetings from Vitaline Incorporated, a Florida corporation based in Clearwater, Florida. This year, Vitaline Incorporated celebrates 26 years serving the medical community with associates around the state. How do they do it? Simply put, Vitaline Incorporated meets their medical needs by providing high-tech instrumentation and respiratory care with focused accessories to hospitals, long-term care facilities, durable medical equipment dealers, and physicians' practices. Our products are on display at VitaLineInc.com. Please visit us on the web for details on the products and services we offer. Vitaline Inc. is a proud sponsor of the Liberty Underground Radio Show.
Facts about the red light cameras. Fact, you are guilty until proven innocent. The Fifth Amendment to the U.S. Constitution grants you the presumption of innocence. Fact, red light cameras cause accidents. Accidents are up on an average of 40% at intersection with cameras. Fact, cameras punish technical foul violations. Over 80% of tickets are written when the red light is on, under 1/2 second. Join the fight at www.banthecams.org. www.banthecams.org.
New technology is being unveiled by the 1787 Radio Network. The Liberty Underground show is offering you, our sponsors, special rates on subliminal advertising.
You will buy advertising from us.
Studies show that subliminal advertising is 8,412% more effective than standard radio ads.
You will write us a check today.
Call 1-800-575-1787 today.
Call it now, right now.
For more information on your sponsorship opportunities, that's 1-800-575-1787 to get your ad running today.
At Auto Body Unlimited, they work with their hands and heart to provide outstanding high-quality work and customer service. They specialize in European automobile collision repair work and refinish. At Auto Body Unlimited, they bring your car up to manufacturer standards, or they will buy your car back. They have dedicated equipment and use the same processes and paint that you would get from the factory. At Auto Body Unlimited, they don't work for the insurance company, they work for you. Auto Body Unlimited is located at 1300 Sunset Point Road in Clearwater. Call 727-443-4041 or on the web at autobodyunlimited.com. Visit Auto Body Unlimited for all of your repair needs. They work for you. If you received a ticket in Florida, contact Oropesa Law Offices, 800-774-9883 or tacklemyticket.com. Attorney Oropesa understands the stress associated with being charged with a traffic ticket. In many non-criminal ticket cases, there may be no court appearance, no points, and no traffic school. Attorney Oropesa handles criminal violations, DUI, and license suspension matters. Don't face these serious legal matters alone. Initial consultation is free. Call now and you will be advised about any potential defense, constitutional rights violations, the possibility of having your driving privileges restored, or preventing a suspension from going into effect. If you've been classified as a habitual traffic offender, have a driver's license suspension matter, or a pending DUI case, call Oropesa Law Offices now so you can be advised about your particular case. Call 1-800-774-9883 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, or visit tacklemyticket.com. Main office in Pinellas County and serving all of the Tampa Bay area. Find out more at tacklemyticket.com. Mention Liberty Underground and get 25% off.
Liberty starts with a like. Facebook.com/Liberty Underground.
You know Going Postal offers shipping with UPS, FedEx, and DHL International, and they're a full-service post office. And Going Postal is not just your one-stop shop for shipping. They offer copying, laminating, faxing, packaging, and they even have a notary public service. Visit our friends at Going Postal at the following convenient locations: Palm Harbor at the corner of Tampa Road and County Road 1 in the Sweet Bay Plaza, St. Pete on 66th Street just south of Tyrone Boulevard near Publix, and be sure to visit their newest location at 35595 US 19 North at Alderman Road next to Publix in Palm Harbor.
You know the system is broken and you hear over and over again about the issues. Are you tired of attending monthly meetings, hearing about the problems, but never hearing about the solutions? Do you want to know how to be effective as an activist? The Neighborhood Project is a step-by-step plan on how you can restore the Republic, starting in your own community. This book was written to show you as an individual how to obtain and keep real political power in your own neighborhood and how this method is vital to restoring honest leadership at every level of government. This book is not reinventing the wheel. It is to show you how to pick up the wheel and use it. Go to 1787network.com and click on the Neighborhood Project logo to pre-order the book before our February 8th release. All pre-orders also include the Neighborhood Project workbook for free. The Neighborhood Project, your way to restore the Republic.
This is Sheriff Richard Mack, and you're listening to Liberty Underground on the 1787 Network.
Welcome back to Liberty Underground on the 1787 Radio Network. If you'd like to call.
That's so funny.
It's a hard habit to break. I know. I do that every time I bring us back,
but
too.
This is the first time that he's done it since
and he's
we've
done
been
it
in
twice.
the studio.
Yeah.
And it's so funny because we have the phone sitting in. We just don't have it set up yet. And it was like as soon as he touched the phone, it was like, oh, yeah, like I got to say call.
Yeah. And we're proud to announce that our phone number is provided by our new sponsor, Refresh Telecom. So you wanted to say something?
And Refresh Telecom has made a promise that none of the information when it comes to your phones is going to be able to be taken by the agencies, by the alphabet agencies. So it's Refresh Telecom, a great sponsor of the program. Also Refresh Computers, another great sponsor of the program. Oropesa Law Offices, another great sponsor. And Dead End Firearms, who does have the largest selection of firearms on the internet. So Dead End Firearm, Dead, DEADEND, firearms.com. Go there. You can actually get weapons. They're up in Brooksville. Great people up there at Dead End Firearms.
Lots of accessories.
Yeah, and it's good that it's good. Again, it was a good week for sponsorship. I'll put it to you that way.
Yeah. Things are coming around.
Oh.
Well, I was hoping you would carry the show for a second so I could change out Alex's mic real quick.
Oh no, I mean, I just
so just fill the air, will you? Come on, you're a radio professional. You can handle that. Hang on, I got to change out. I'm bringing your mic down because I got to change out mics. A little technical difficulty here, folks.
So funny, and I heard it coming back in there, and then you pointed at me. I'm like, I can't fix it. I didn't know what you wanted. I just couldn't. I was like, what do you mean? No, it's just the mic. I don't think we're going to be able to fix it.
Yeah. So nothing we can do about it.
We'll just have to fix
switch
it
to yeah, there you go. Switch to low filter. Okay, you're on low filter now?
Yeah, is that better?
Oh, that's way better.
Is that way better?
Yeah.
Okay, there you go.
So no, it's coming back again, but I think it's probably the accumulated spittle in your mic.
Do you think that's it?
I think it is. I think your rant this morning, the spittle was just flying, and it's probably soaked through to the electronics in your mic.
This is the first time that you've done a really loud rant on air since we've been in the new studio.
I've been telling you.
I think your mic can't handle it.
We need the microphone condom for you.
I guess we're gonna have to. I guess
you need one of those spit filters.
Oh, okay. Damn it.
You really do, because your mic is something ain't right with it.
Ah, dang.
Yeah.
Can you hear me now, though?
But we're losing you.
Okay.
Yeah.
We're losing you.
Well, go ahead, Danielle. Start off. Give us what's going on.
Okay. Well, our favorite campaign manager from the 2012 presidential election, Jesse Benton, is in the news. And what had happened, and most of us will have known this, there was a state senator, Sorensen, who Kent Sorensen, who right before the Iowa caucus actually left Michelle Bachmann's campaign and endorsed Ron Paul. He came over to the Ron Paul campaign. He endorsed him. It was really, really right before the Iowa caucus, and it was kind of a big coup. I mean, we heard about it everywhere. Well, it looks as though there was a payoff to make that happen. And now they're looking into it. There's been some emails that are now being, released, and it looks like some very people high up. Now Kent Sorensen is saying for sure Jesse knew about it. There's an email going back and forth, or maybe a recording of a telephone conversation where Jesse, Kent Sorensen says, definitely Jesse knew about it, but the deputy campaign manager was actually the one who wrote the check. And wrote it for a very sizable amount to Kent Sorensen's wife. And apparently it was a payoff.
Wasn't there a jeweler as the middleman in this?
No, I didn't read that.
Okay, in the story I read, there was some jeweler that was apparently the middleman before it got to Sorensen.
No, see, I didn't read that. I didn't read that. I read it that it came directly from the deputy campaign manager. What's his name? Dimitri something, I think it is. And I only read it from Ben Swan, so I'm only going. I haven't read all the stories, just the one that Ben Swan put out. So, and he says it came directly from the deputy campaign manager.
Here's the problem. Here's the problem here. You know what?
You guys going to share a mic?
All right, cut the mic off. You cut that one off.
All
right, here's the problem. A lot of us were involved in the Ron Paul 2012 campaign. A lot of us were concerned immediately, maybe not immediately, but pretty close to immediately, about guys like Jesse Benton. The reason the guy had the job was because he's married to Ron Paul's granddaughter. Not because he's good at his job, but because he's married to Ron Paul's granddaughter. And he worked on Rand Paul's 2010 campaign. Now, when he ran with Ron Paul's 2010 campaign, this guy is not a ideological believer in the movement. Even I don't think he's a wannabe political operative who wants to make a name for himself within the movement, and he thought a good way to do that is to go to Ron Paul. Again, I don't know all the history that what goes on personally with these people. But Jesse Benton is one of the reasons Ron Paul did not win the 2012 election. There's no getting around that. In Florida, when we were actually getting somewhere, when we were actually moving forward, Jesse Benton cut the rug out from underneath us. He did that. That wasn't something else. He did that himself. He took people that were involved in this along with Jack Hunter, and they would basically demonize anybody that wasn't following right along with the little GOP script that they had done. And come to find out that the whole thing was being done for Rand Paul in 2016. The other part is this. We have to be better than everybody else. We have to be principled people that are doing it the right way. And hiring and employing scumbags like Jesse Benton, who now you can plainly see that this was his doing, that paying political favors to people and holding your nose in order to work for somebody else doesn't mean that you're a principled person. It means that you're a scumbag. That's what it means. And, a lot of people are going to go, well, we can't be having this. This denounces the movement and, all of this and that. That there's some kind of big, that the problem's actually with us and not with Jesse Benton himself and the moves that he's done. Like, they're going to try to attack the messenger on this. And I think it's very disingenuous to attack the messenger on this, especially now that we've seen the people that are actually now damaging the campaign are Jesse Benton, and that's going to hurt Rand Paul for 2016. Jack Hunter, who's going to hurt Rand Paul in 2016. These people have done damage that, some guy asking about the Bilderberg group never did. I mean, if you don't want to be like everybody else, then I guess you're like everybody else. But I really do think that those of us that called it out, that were basically blackballed because of it, have only been proven right more and more as the days go on.
No, you're not live.
Okay. Well, I mean, what happened, and I have to say, and we, what we get a lot of slack for is that we, we called it all the way up to the top, and I know, people are saying, well, this was an issue with Jesse Benton, and you can't blame Ron because he probably didn't know about it, and this was all Benton. But when it's your name at the top, you have to be responsible. You're the one responsible for what's going on. So, it's one of those things where you have to listen. Even if Ron didn't know about each one of these little individual things, he was the one in charge. He was the one that had to make sure that everything was going well. And he didn't. It was his name at the top. So ultimately, he is responsible for what happens in his campaign.
No, you're absolutely right. He is definitely responsible for what happens in his campaign. And it is about time that we started actually blaming that. Again, I know that Ron's not doing he's not going to be a candidate for office anymore or anything like that. He's going to do TV or he's going to just TV show and stick with education. And that's a good thing. He's going to do the educational thing. Really do love that part. But when it comes to people like Benton, those people should not be embraced or welcomed in this movement at all. You go ahead and you stay with McConnell. That's where you belong. You belong with the establishment because that's what you are. You are a person that does not want to actually change this country. You want your own political power, and you want more big $200,000 checks like you got when you were working for the Ron Paul campaign, which, here's the other thing. If they're paying him $100,000, whose money is that they're paying him with? They're paying him with your donations. That guy's making money with your donations. So when you did a money bomb for millions of dollars, part of that money either lined Benton's pockets or some politician in Iowa. That's whose pockets that they lined with this money. And it sucks that you have to do. Again, we're always accused. Well, you guys just are anti whatever. Hey, look, man, we're pro freedom. We're we're against corruption. No matter who's doing it. It doesn't matter if it's Ron Paul doing it. It matters that it's being done. And if his campaign is paying off people, that's a problem. And so not only is Jesse Benton involved, John Tate's involved in this as well. This is C4L that's involved in this stuff, or the leadership of C4L. Not the everyday up and down the street citizens, mind you, the individuals that go to the county affiliate meetings. It's the leadership. And leadership has always been a problem. We've continued to talk about it because they're not doing the right things to actually save this country. They're doing the things to make a political power base for Rand Paul. And I know what you're going to say. Well, if they're making that for Rand Paul, then they got to be doing that for good reasons. Really? Why? Why do they have to be doing it for good reasons? Is there proof of this? Is there proof that somehow these guys are saintly individuals that haven't let the power and money go to their head? I got to tell you, I think the power and money have gone to their head. I think the success has gone to these people's heads. And I'm sick and tired of sitting by and watching it happen without saying anything about it. It's crap. It's complete crap that this has gone on. And if anybody's going to try to defend this or try to spin it as, well, they're not really doing anything bad. They're really more of... This is just trying to damage Rand for 2016. You know what? Not everything's for that. And these people maybe are believers in liberty and freedom and see that you guys aren't getting it done and have no plans to get it done. And they're exposing you for the charlatans that you are. That's the problem. We need to be honest within ourselves. And if we're not going to be honest within ourselves, then I can't trust you to be honest anywhere.
No, I definitely think you're right. And I mean, I think that this is a big hit for the liberty movement in general. This is the one thing that the liberty movement has always said that they're against is these corruptions, these backroom deals, these bribes and things like that. And you see that, these things are going on here. Nobody's exempt from being able to be corrupted. And I truly believe that. I mean, you just never know what any one person is going to do depending on the situation. So, that's why, we always advocate that the liberty movement should never be about one person. It should have never been about Ron Paul. It shouldn't have been about one campaign. It shouldn't be about Rand in 2016 because that's one person. And people are flawed and they're going to make mistakes and they're going to do things that maybe are questionable. It has to be all about the principles and all about bringing freedom and liberty. And we can't put all of our hope on one person.
Yeah, no, that's exactly right. You cannot put all your hopes onto one person. And that is the problem that we've run into, is that too many times that's what it's all about. And it goes with this RAND 2016 thing. Look, I get really irritated at the RAND 2016 thing.
Me too.
Now, here's the reason why. Is it because I really don't like Rand? Look, he's not my favorite guy in the whole world. I think that he has an agenda, and I don't think his agenda is liberty and freedom. But with that being said, let's say that Rand was the greatest guy in the world. He's the best thing since sliced bread, right? That's 2016.
Right.
That is a presidential race in 2016 where my impact as an individual has the least impact possible. And there's elections in 2013. There's elections in 2014. There's elections in 2015. That's 3 different election cycles. And if you do your job in those 3 election cycles, then 2016 will take care of itself.
Well, yeah, and number one, even in 2016, there's more than just one person on that ballot, by the way. And even after that, I mean, the president can only do so much. And I know that, listen, there's a lot of things and the president does have a lot of power and things like that. And there's a lot of national issues that need to be fixed. But the people who affect your everyday life, just the, going down the roads, the people regulating what's going on there and in your home and everything else, that's not even federal issues. That's local. And you're ignoring all of these local races for the next 3 years based on your hope of one person in 2016. And we've already seen that one person there could be corruption. There could be things going on. There could be backroom deals. You can't put all your hope into that one person.
Yeah, if we keep associating with people like Jesse Benton and we keep associating with others that are like that, we are no better than those that we're going up against. We're no better. We are no
Absolutely.
better than those because they're playing the same dirty tricks. Again, there's positive steps that we need to emulate off of what success will look like. But this ain't it.
No.
It ain't what Benton does is success. Well, he's been successful. Why? Because he tanked Ron Paul's campaign in 2010?
Oh, he was
Or
successful
2012?
at tanking it, though.
He did real good job at tanking that campaign. And if you're going to be honest with yourself here in the state of Florida, you better be honest with what happened with the campaign in 2012. And you can try to spin it all you want. But I think the one thing that you're going to forget is I was here the whole time. The areas that I was in control of got higher percentages than everybody else. We did it ourselves.
Oh, well, the campaign worked against us.
Yeah. In spite of the efforts of the campaign. Now, and maybe Ron didn't know about it. Maybe he did. I don't know. At this point, I don't care because it's over.
Right.
But don't tell me that it wasn't done that way. Don't tell me, because I know I was here. I lived it. I watched it. I made the phone calls making complaints of what state leadership was doing. And those phone calls were never returned. Never returned.
Well, think about our first campaign team meeting where we had tons of people in the room. And then the campaign said right after that, we're not going to touch Florida. And we still had a ton of people saying, that's all right, we'll do it ourselves, let's do it. And then the campaign came out and said, all you people in Florida, we need you to phone back to Iowa. And our numbers dropped significantly.
Yeah, absolutely they did. Yeah, you guys need to call. You guys only need to be calling on Iowa. You don't need to be doing anything else. That's what you're saying. Why do we need to call in Iowa? Why didn't you spend the $200,000 on a call center in Iowa then?
Right.
Instead of paying off a political operative or instead of paying off a politician. I mean, this is so dirty.
Yeah.
It's so dirty. And it's like, look, and this is not coming from this is coming from news organizations within the movement. And I know what you're going to say. Well, those news organizations, they have an agenda. You know what, man? Gary Franchi has an agenda. It's called The Truth.
Yeah, and I got mine. I read the story this morning from Ben Swan.
Yeah. And so you got Ben Swan, you got Franchi, so you got our media actually saying stuff. And if you're just going to dismiss this as, oh, well, this is just, jealousy and this and that. You know what? No, it's not that at all. I'm not jealous of Jesse Benton at all. Matter of fact, I hope what happens here is that the man is put in a cage for bribery.
Yeah.
He's infringing. He stole your money. Be mad at that. It's so painful because too many times we're considered the outcasts.
Oh yeah. Well, we were blacklisted.
Yeah, we were blacklisted from the campaign after the day after they endorsed Romney because we went on a rant because we told the truth.
Right.
You know. Yeah. The guy, by the way, that's telling you to keep funding Obamacare, by the way, but Mitt Romney.
Yeah.
Let him get back in the mix. That's once again, that's a great recommendation, Rand. You didn't have any. There's no damage to you for that. You're not going to win the GOP nomination because you're not your father.
Well, yeah.
You want to go out and get those other people. They're not going to vote for you. They're going to vote for Chris Christie.
Oh,
who just instituted 10 more laws against guns in his state.
I mean, I don't even know why Chris Christie is in the Republican Party. And the thing is that not only.
There's rumors that he may not be for very long.
Right. Well,
yeah.
and the funniest thing is that Chris Christie is not only is he still a Republican, but the leadership in the party is like he's our new hope. Like
it's ridiculous, isn't it?
He's the new Republican darling, like the rising star of the GOP, and the guy institutes all liberal policies.
You don't win the presidential nomination with a pie eating contest. All right, guys, you don't win it with that. So Chris Christie and his girth don't make a difference in that aspect. As a matter of fact, I don't think the guy could actually handle the stress of the job. I think that it would actually give him a heart attack and kill him.
Well, hey, fat jokes aside. The guy's a socialist.
Yeah.
And a gun grabber.
Oh, absolutely he is. Again, it's like, well, he's got an R next to his name. He's got to believe in limited government. Is there anything limited government about Jersey?
Wait a minute. He took money that was from the Storm Sandy that ruined, just devastated the Jersey Shore.
Yeah.
And they said, and I just read a story this morning that said he took like $2 million of that and basically made his campaign ads for re-election.
Yeah.
So, this limited government guy who's just looking out for people, number one, took a whole bunch of federal money and then used some of that federal money, not on victims of the storm that devastated his state, but on his own campaign ads for re-election.
Yeah. Well, they were probably campaign ads talking about the hurricane and how you can help.
Oh, I'm sure he probably said, elect me again because look at what a good job I did.
And his face is probably all in front of him, which is why, again, that people using the government money to do this, they're using federal funds and again, there's the argument that they have right there, which is, what's the best way I can put this? They're saying that, well, they want people to know about these programs and what's going on, which is why you have all the government commercials out there on different radio stations. Right. And again, I think that we ought to actually knock all of those commercials off and save all the money because you shouldn't be allowed to do those commercials.
I don't think the government should have a marketing department.
No, not at all. If they need help, then look, your marketing department is, this is this building you can come to, that's it.
Like, if you have a good idea, shouldn't the people just like it? Like, you shouldn't have to market it to sell it to them.
Yeah. Well, no, and they do. And and that's why we've talked about this before. You had the people that are out there that are basically the salespeople for,
Obamacare.
No, not Obamacare, for governmental agencies.
Oh, yeah.
To get help. And they have a quota. Like, you got to get so many people signed up. You've set quotas up for that when there should never be a quota there at all to begin with. No wonder why there's more people on the system. You hired sales rep to ensure that it's going to happen.
Well, and Rubio got a big backlash from the immigration thing. But he was on every commercial and billboard everywhere with this immigration bill. If it was a good bill, you could just print it in the paper or print it on the website and people would read it and say, oh, that's great.
Yeah.
Why did you have to spin it and make commercials and put out billboards to sell them on it?
No, you didn't. But they did it anyway, though. And they did it because, again, that money has two purposes. One, it's for the job at hand, so for those advertising dollars to be able to be spent right there. The second part of that, though, is that they get to go back to those media people later on and go, look, man, we've been giving you guys money. How about you guys let us on? Oh, don't let those other people on. If you let libertarians on, then we're not going to give you any more of our money that we get from the government that we steal from the people. That's what they're doing, and you wonder why there's a media bias.
Oh, well, yeah. And we even see that in Adrian's race when he polls 8.7, and all of a sudden, now that poll had many different questions, policy questions in it. And now reporters are being told, well, we're not reporting on the whole poll.
Yeah.
And why? Why wouldn't you want people to know how the questions went?
Yeah. Because they don't want an honest debate of the issues. They want Charlie Crist against Rick Scott, so they can just have that back and forth right there, which means either the establishment wins with Rick Scott or the establishment wins with Charlie Crist, because the difference between the two is a hair and a tan. And that's it.
Yeah, I mean, and
hold on. Let me put it in. Hold on. I'm sorry. I hate to interrupt.
No,
Let me
go
put it in a different way. Let's say that I told you that the governor of Florida increased the state budget, wanted Medicaid expansion, arrested a sheriff in Liberty County for upholding the Second Amendment, and implemented Common Core. And I didn't tell you who the guy was.
he's a Democrat, right?
He would be a Democrat, right? Oh, no. He would be, or would it be Charlie Crist or Rick Scott?
What?
Would you be able to say, well, that's Rick Scott because that's free market, is that free market stuff? No, you would not. If I told you that it was Charlie Crist doing that, you'd be like, that guy's got to go. We got to get rid of that guy. He's a horrible person. That's what you'd be saying.
Well, that's what they did say when he did that stuff.
Yeah.
Because let's face it, in this race, it's the guy who did all the pre-stuff to set up the guy who did that stuff now.
Your vote, we always say that, they always talk about wasted votes. Your vote is wasted if you pick Charlie Crist or Rick Scott. You have, in essence, wasted your vote.
So who would you pick in that case?
I think that the best person to pick is probably Nan Rich.
We waited. You waited till we have a bad mic,
so that you can't say.
So I can just barely get in and out. I can't really.
No. The guy that you vote for is the guy that's at 8.7%, and that's Adrian Wiley. Look, and the other thing is this: a lot of times, you hearing the Republicans talk a lot about this. Well, the guy's with me 80% of the time, right? The guy who's 80%er. Can you honestly say that Rick Scott is even a 50%er with you right now? Like, can you really, no matter if you're a diehard Republican or a whatever?
Well, the Dems could probably say that.
The Dems could probably say that better than the other side could. But Adrian is probably with you 90%. And the difference is that the 90% that he's with you on, he actually means it.
Like, he really believes it.
Yeah, like he's not just saying it like Rick Scott did and then completely lied. Those guys, their flip-flop ability is amazing. That guy actually meant it when he said it.
Well,
and Rick Scott was lying. You go with Adrian on this one.
Well, and this is what, and I don't know if people realize this or not, is that, political campaigns, the big political campaigns have focus groups before a speech. So the speech writers actually will go to a focus group and they'll ask these group of ordinary citizens, what do you feel if we say this word? What do you feel if we say that we're for stand your ground? How do you feel if we say we're against gay marriage or for gay marriage? And this is what happens. There's these big focus groups and then they say, oh, well, we can't write that into the speech because the focus group didn't like it. We don't have a focus group.
Wait a second. I've never had a written speech.
Ever.
Well, I wouldn't say you don't have a focus group. It's just only two people.
It's two people in the car on the way home.
You do have somewhat of a focus group, but it's a very limited one.
And the difference is that, and I don't know how well you folks can hear me on this bad mic, but the difference is I really am telling you what I believe all the time, every time.
Yeah, and we're not always going to agree with you're not always going to agree with somebody on things.
Well, we don't always agree with each other.
Oh, no.
There's times in the car ride home we're like, I can't believe you said that. And he's like, well, that's what I believe.
Yeah, exactly. But on to something else here. Speaking of bad things with bad people, if you don't know about this, because of the Snowden incident, the president, Barack Hussein Obama, decided that he was going to cancel his meeting with Vladimir Putin from Russia, that he was going to cancel this meeting.
And this has been big news.
Yeah, and this has been pretty big news that he's canceled this meeting. And one of the reasons is because of the Snowden thing. And, I think there are some other reasons, I think, that go along with it, but Snowden was one of them. But if you want to talk about the wrong time to be doing something like this, it's probably right now. That's really the wrong time to be doing this stuff. Look, there's a lot of serious issues going on in the world right now. And even if they didn't give you back Snowden, what you should do is go and talk to him and say, I really want you to give back Snowden, and let me tell you why, and let me sell you on it. But now we're like, well, we're just going to cut them off, right? Well, do you think we're the only game in town that they can talk to? No, because now what's happening is Russia and China are furthering their relationship together.
Because that's an alliance you want to help build.
Yeah, because we want to do all we can to help build the China-Russia alliance. So let's snub the president of Russia to ensure he goes over to the Chinese.
Wait, let's get the country with the biggest nuclear arsenal really close friends with the country that has the biggest army as far as people go.
Yeah.
This sounds like it's a great idea.
Yeah. And by the way, and just it's funny that there's a couple facts. We actually got this from Infowars.com on some of the facts.
Did Kurt Nimmo write an article?
I don't think it was Kurt Nimmo.
It wasn't, but every time we say Infowars.com,
Yep. So on here, let's give you some facts about Russia. Russia is the largest oil producer in the world. We're third.
Yes.
Russia's the number two oil exporter in the world. We're an oil importer.
Which is crazy because we actually have a ton of oil, but we actually still import.
Yep. Russia produces more natural gas than any other one on the planet. We're number 2 on that. Russia supplies 34% of Europe's natural gas. Again, that's a pretty big influence. You want to talk about a stick. We don't have any stick on the EU that Russia has on the EU when it comes to natural gas. Because go a winter in Europe and not have natural gas and find out what happens.
Yeah.
And I would say this is probably the most important fact of all the ones I'm going to tell you is the United States has a debt to GDP ratio of 101%.
So what that means is we owe more than everything we're going to bring in.
Yeah.
So if we took everything that we brought in and paid it out 100%, we'd still owe money.
Yep. Russia has a debt to GDP ratio of 8%. Now, who's in a better financial situation right now? Now, Russia did collapse, though. We ended up making them collapse, and debt was part of it. I mean, it's one of the things. Even the head of the Department of Defense has come out and said the biggest threat to this nation is debt. It's not another military force. It's that we're broke. And what are we going to do? We're going to pick a fight with the guys that have a military about as big as ours,
largest nuclear arsenal in the world,
has the resources themselves that if we want, let's say we got everybody in the world to want to cut Russia off, they can take care of themselves. They do not need us at all. And we're going to pick a fight with those guys, but let them go over to the Chinese. That's a real smart move. That's a real smart political move here. It just goes to show you that the Obama administration, the one before that, the one before that, and the one before that had no earthly idea what's going on with foreign policy. But people that talk about bringing the troops home are somehow considered dangerous because that foreign policy of free trade with all and entangling alliances with none only causes more hate and discontent around the world. Drone bombing going up 2,000% under Obama has nothing to do with bad feelings around the world, right? Jesus.
Well, no. I mean, if we stayed out of all their lives, they would hate us.
Yeah, because they hate us because we're free, which they shouldn't hate us anymore considering
the
NSA, considering the Patriot Act. We're really not free anymore, so
shouldn't
go
they
ahead
like us now?
Go ahead and stop hating us.
Yeah, I would think we've lost enough freedom where we should be liked again.
Yeah, you'd hope so. And the other thing is I think even some people in other parts of the world, like if you talk to just the citizens, they love America.
Yeah, they do.
They hate the government, though.
Right.
They're not a big fan of the American government, but they actually love America. They want to be a free country, too. People want to be free, but they're just not able to because, we have a government that's not only getting involved in all of our business, but getting involved in the rest of the world's business as well. And too bad we've, funded dictators for decades. But those people shouldn't have a problem with the United States government at all, should they?
No, not at all. But there's more on this list. The United States had a trade deficit of more than $500 billion last year, and Russia consistently runs a large trade surplus.
Imagine that.
Also, the United States has an unemployment rate of 7.4%.
And that's way wrong. But
which is not even close to accurate.
I will tell you this. One thing that did bother me about this article on Infowars.com was that number right there.
Yeah, because Alex Jones knows better.
You'd think. Now, what I do think is this, though. I think that the way that they're using the two numbers is he wanted to do an apples-to-apples comparison, but you don't put that number in there. That is reinforcing a lie.
Right.
And I don't approve of that part of it.
Yeah, but using the same calculations, the United States has an unemployment rate of 7.4%, and Russia has an unemployment rate of 5.4%.
Yeah.
Which, of course, and I don't know how accurate the numbers of Russia are. If they're doing the same crazy kind of math that we're doing, they could be a lot higher, too. but we know that we're a lot higher.
Yeah, and that's a very it's very annoying. Again, like I said, they should not have put that number in there. I think it was. I think it was he was trying to make another point there, and I think it was gratuitous to even try to make that point. They're wrong and all day long for putting that in there. But we better not be just going around continually pissing everybody off, because we're about to have a financial collapse, and I can't imagine that us pissing everybody off else in the world is going to help that.
Well, here's an interesting one. Russia has added about 570 metric tons of gold to their reserves over the past decade. And in the U.S., and this is what it says, nobody seems to be quite sure how much gold the Federal Reserve actually has left.
Yeah.
So while Russia...
Because they won't let us see it.
They won't let us see it, then we could have nothing left. But Russia is building up their gold reserves, and our government doesn't even know how much they have left.
Yeah. Well, they won't tell us.
Well, and it's far worse than that, because every time someone wants to look in on the gold reserves stored at the... lost it again?
No, you're in and out.
The gold reserves stored at the Federal Reserve, they either say, oh, well, you can't come, we've got a problem, or most recently there was a fire in their gold vault. I mean, there's always some ridiculous excuse as to why people can't audit their gold.
Yeah.
Yeah, and how do you get a fire in the gold vault? I mean, like, shouldn't the vault be pretty secure?
Well, and gold's not flammable.
And shouldn't the vault be fireproof?
You'd think.
What are you putting these in cardboard boxes?
Yeah.
It's an inert material in a steel box.
Yeah. How does that catch fire?
How did you get a fire? That's always, and more people don't question that, which is what makes me say, like, what will make you question things? When they say they have a fire in the gold reserve vault, don't you ever just stop and say, well, wait, how does that happen? That doesn't even seem possible.
No, how does the fire happen in the gold vault? Can you explain it for me?
No, nobody questions it. They're just like, oh, man, that sucks.
Yeah, exactly. So what else is going on? How's what you doing?
You guys are really falling apart without me in here, aren't you?
Falling apart without you being in here. I'm actually just trying to see if I can. I don't want to take up all the time, so I was trying to help you out here, tough guy. But
no.
Obviously, you don't want to.
I'm working technical issues here, so you guys actually have to go on without me. But one of the angles you can get to that you didn't is the one I was talking about before with Syria and how that plays into the U.S.-Russian-Sino relations.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. That's actually a good point, is that you're almost seeing maybe a return to maybe Cold War conflicts with things like Syria, because Russia and Syria are together. They have a pact. You know what I mean? So if we go in there and attack Syria, then Russia does have a pact with Syria that they should be attacking us. Syria
Iran
could be and Iran as
Iran
well.
And
that could
China
cause
has that as well.
Yeah, and so that could cause World War III. And what are we doing? We're going over there and getting involved. McCain goes over there. Then Obama goes, or Obama doesn't go over there, but McCain goes over there.
To go over there.
Obama's putting in what do you call it? He's going through, and they're getting weapons over to the Syrian rebels.
Oh, they're arming the rebels.
Those ones that are actually cutting the hearts out and eating the hearts on YouTube. Those people are the ones that are getting our money, and we wonder why we run into all these problems. I just, above all else, we have to make sure that we get back to what the founders of the country talked about: free trade with all, entangling alliances with one, and treat other people how we would want to be treated. We don't want a country coming over here trying to dictate to us. What makes us think it's any different doing it the other way around?
Think of what we would do if another country came over here and started interfering in our affairs.
Yeah.
I mean, you want to talk about, people would be calling for war within seconds.
Mm-hmm.
But when we do it over there and they don't like it, we're like, well, we're just trying to bring you freedom.
No,
What's
we're
wrong?
trying to spread your democracy. We like democracy. We want to spread it, even though we're a constitutional republic and we're not a democracy. But we're going to use that word because we want to trick the American people into thinking that it's a good thing and not a bad thing.
Well, and I think it...
And I like this voice, just for the record. And that's the way it was.
I was going to say, that's like I forget the name now.
It's a little bit of a high-pitched Walter Cronkite.
Walter Cronkite kind of voice.
And that's the way it was.
It's funny, within the course of the show...
And it's fun to interrupt with this voice because she can't get that mad.
It's funny through the course of the show that you go from screaming and yelling to redneck to Walter Cronkite?
I am a roller coaster. I am the human roller coaster when it comes to emotions on the show. I can go high, low, up, down, left, right. Doesn't matter.
You know, we're polling low in Asian and Island Pacificers. Pacific Islanders. Can you do something about that? Like maybe bring them in with some.
You know what? Any voice I would do there would end up being considered.
Would you do more damage than good?
Yeah, it would do more damage than good. It would move his numbers into negatives.
All right.
So I'll stay away from that, to be honest with you. Because
no, you're gonna try to do something.
I was going to try to do it anyway.
No,
because Mr. Wiley is a good guy.
The views expressed by Alex Snicker are not necessarily those of the staff management of the Wiley for Governor campaign.
There you go. I'll be fired soon enough, me and Benton.
And you know what? And this one, I got to say, it really, really isn't. Like the other one this morning, that probably was our views. This one wasn't.
Oh, so you guys don't like my voice? Okay.
No, that's horrible. You're right. You do more damage than good. Just stop.
I love the one guy on South Park, by the way, that it was City Walk, but it would sound like welcome to Shay Walk. I always think that was funny, and it was meant with nothing but love. I mean, it's a beautiful thing.
I love South
I
Park.
love everybody. I love Asians, whites, blacks, browns, reds, purples, polka dots. I love them all. So, and I hate them all too. So, very duality. So, it's a beautiful thing.
I think you're schizophrenic.
A little bit. But let's talk about this, though. Now, we're going over airwaves right now. And these airwaves, you go to servers. Now, one of the things that you don't realize is a lot of your internet traffic is actually goes overseas and comes back. So it doesn't all just stay here in America. It actually does travel around the world.
Every website you've ever visited is located on a server, which is located somewhere. And the vast majority of the servers across the planet are located elsewhere. So, for example, one easy example is if you've ever been to, BBC News.
Right.
If you've ever linked to a site on that, your internet traffic has left the country. And even some traffic within the U.S. is bouncing off servers in other countries. That's just the way it works.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, let's not forget that the www means World Wide Web.
Yeah. So why does this matter? Well, the New York Times has actually come out with an article. And this article, in addition, this is more leaks that are coming out here, but the NSA said to search content of messages to and from the United States. We told you that to tell you that part. Now go ahead and read a little bit of that, Danielle.
The NSA is not just intercepting the communications of Americans who are in direct contact with foreigners targeted overseas, a practice that government officials have openly acknowledged. It is also casting a far wider net for people who cite information linked to those foreigners, like a little-used email address, according to a senior intelligence official. While it has long been known that the agency conducts extensive computer searches of data it vacuums up overseas, that it systematically is searching without warrant through the contents of Americans' communications that cross the border reveals more about the scale of its secret operations.
Yeah. So because it goes overseas, you may not be communicating necessarily with an individual. You may be going to a website like The Guardian or BBC News. I mean, that's a pretty benign website. You're just going for news. It's not like you're putting in secret messages for Al-Qaeda on BBC. I mean,
it actually means you want real news.
Yeah.
Well, have you ever gotten a spam email from Taiwan or China?
Or Nigeria.
Yeah, or Nigeria. Yeah, that's a good point.
I get that one all the time.
I mean,
that just opened you up to being international.
Right. Yeah, I get that one from Malaysia. Apparently, I have lots of family who has died in Malaysia.
Oh, I know.
And left me billions of dollars.
I could fix the debt with my relatives in foreign countries when it comes to that. I'm feeling pretty good about that. I'm going to pay off the national debt with that money.
Yeah, I'm waiting to collect the checks.
Yeah.
Every once in a while, I go through my spam folder and realize I'm a multi-trillionaire.
Yeah, I feel pretty good about myself then too.
Well, if it's
well, if it's, I don't care.
You sound like you're on like a way remote. That's it. It's like, and now back to Adrian over in some Pacific Island.
Hold on. Here's Adrian for the weather. Well, I think we got over here. It looks like there's going to be a. Is this thing on? I don't know what's going on here. Back to you in the studio, Danielle.
It does sound like you're in the middle of a hurricane when you turn it on. It's kind of funny.
Hurricane Wiley.
The winds are really picking up now, and
I'm fearing for my life. I have been impaled by a 2x4 in the chest.
It's horizontal.
It's raining cats and dogs living together, mass hysteria.
On the other side of the table from us.
On the other side. It would be fun to be some of those reporters, though. I got to tell you, I wouldn't mind being a reporter in some of those storms because it is funny as crap that you're like, I'm standing outside of the hurricane like this provides any value whatsoever other than my possibility of death.
And they always say that you shouldn't do this. Well,
Yeah.
why are you doing it?
Yeah, you shouldn't do this.
Special?
I am now
You got a
carrying.
meteorology degree?
I'm a trained professional and standing in the middle of a hurricane.
Right, yeah. I got a license for that.
I went through tornado school.
Look, if there is any hurricanes in Florida, we are totally going to do a live remote from the hurricane. Just make sure we get set up for it.
Actually, I'll just use this mic and put up a green screen.
That's right. We could have done it today and really freaked people out and been like, we're in the middle of a hurricane.
It's amazing. It's only happening here in Newport Richey, Florida.
Inside the 10 by 12 room that we have a studio in.
That's amazing.
Only one half of it, actually.
That's a good show today, guys. I think the first hour was definitely really good. Second hour was all right. I think it was. I like the interview. I think that I've always been two ways on interviews. I used to not ever want to do an interview, and then when I would do them, they would be softballs.
You still softball.
You
were about to give her a pass until I stepped in on that.
No. I was
you
trying to
softball.
I was trying to explain something that you actually cut me off in the middle of, but that's okay.
You were not trying to explain. You were trying to dance around.
No. I was trying to get specific. So there's a difference, guy. So specific.
Specific questions require brevity, not a.
You know what? Don't give me these big fancy words like brevity. All right, I don't want.
Or soliloquy.
I don't need the big fanciness that you got going on over there. A little pompous.
I like the irony of.
Yeah,
brevity
I like that
being
your
a
mic.
big word.
I like that your mic doesn't work very well. I like that.
Yeah.
But that's actually your
It's
mic.
your mic that you destroyed with spittle from your rant.
Well, that's okay. We'll turn it back.
I
in.
need to go take a hairdryer to this thing. I think I might be able to salvage it.
Oh, okay. But at any rate, you know what we didn't get to. You know what we didn't get to this week is because we don't have enough time for this. Actually, oh, maybe we do.
We do.
Is to go with Alex's latest, or not latest, but recent revelation that he is insane.
Oh, what are we? What's your
Well,
insanity today?
I'll leave it for you guys. Do you guys have a topic for what makes me insane, so I can explain it to people?
I'm saving that for the book.
Well, give me one give me one you're not going to have for the
You
book.
are a walking clinical
contradiction in terms. I mean, your imprinting is.
We'll go with imprinting. That's a good one.
That's true.
We'll go with imprinting. I'll explain it, and I'll explain imprinting. What they call by imprinting is that normally the first impression I have with somebody.
No. Let's go over actual what imprinting is.
Okay.
What imprinting is when a baby duck or a baby chick is born. What the first thing that they see, they will consider to be an endearing person.
Like your mom.
Yeah.
Will be like the mother figure or someone that's very endeared to them, and they will follow that person around. And no matter what that thing or person or animal does, they will just love them.
All right.
Now, I often, when we're talking about people, will go, "Oh my gosh, you're like a baby duck," because you tend to imprint.
Yeah. So so how do I imprint though?
Okay. Whatever your first experience is with someone, good or bad, that will be what you think of them forever.
But wait a second. It's deeper than that. Because it's not just a good first impression. It's if that individual says something nice about Alex.
Yes.
That's when he imprints.
You better explain it again because they can't hear Adrian.
Okay. If someone says something nice about Alex the first time he meets them, if they just say, "Oh, I'm a fan of the show," or "Oh, I voted for you," or I've heard a lot about you, great things, then that person could punch you in the face an hour later, and you'd be like, he's a good guy.
Yeah.
All right. Can I now defend myself?
Go ahead.
Can I now defend myself on this? Okay. First thing is this. It's true that I do imprint. I'll admit it all day long. I'm getting better at it though, and it doesn't always last. It's not a forever thing with everybody. I have proven that I can break it.
And it takes a lot, though.
It does take a lot, though. It does take a lot. And the other thing is that I think that you can chalk this up in the loyalty aspect of things. If somebody was good enough to vote for you, you know what, man? Let them have their opinion or whatever it is. If they were a nice person to you, then they were being nice to you. I think that, look, too many times I'm considered an a-hole all the time, so I think it's a good thing if I'm actually nice to people at times. Like, I don't think it's a bad thing to be nice to people. But I do understand that this is a problem. Look, the other things like with the bags and with the eating and the other stuff, I don't consider those to be the problems. I will say that this one may be a little bit of an issue that does need some work on, but I don't think that you guys necessarily have the solutions either, because I don't want to just be mean to everybody, but I just don't want to be nice to everybody.
Stop being insane.
Yeah, there's the solution. Stop being insane, because this is what happens.
I don't know how to stop being insane, though.
You meet someone and your first impression of them
specifics.
Your first impression of them is a good one, and then all of a sudden a week later they just go. I mean, they're just complete jerks. And I'll talk to you about it, and you'll say, well, you know, you got to give them a pass on that. And I'm like, oh, my God, you imprinted again.
Yeah.
If Jeffrey Dahmer had said something nice to Alex, after we found out what he did, Alex would be like, you know, yeah, it's not so good, but he's an okay guy. I'm sure he didn't mean to eat those people.
You know, actually, this is another reason why I don't like to meet politicians.
I could totally understand why.
I don't like meeting politicians for that reason right there.
Or
I don't want to talk to them for any kind of serious manner because I'm afraid of imprinting.
Yeah, well, no, I mean, and that's a legitimate concern.
Like I will say that certain people shouldn't talk to politicians, and I have said this before. I've said it openly. I will put myself in that same camp.
Well, you say all the time you don't want to come to lobby with us.
No. I want nothing to do with that whatsoever.
Because they'll be like, Alex Snicker, I've heard of you. And you'd be like, oh, it's okay that you voted for all that bad stuff.
Yeah.
The bottom line here is really your ego overrides all of other brain.
Right, that is what it is.
Now, it's not ego. It's that if somebody's nice to me, that I have a difficult time being mean.
But if someone's
being objective
wait.
at times.
But also, if someone is not, and I wouldn't even say not nice, but if someone is very dismissive of you in the beginning, but then really kind of figures out that was not the right way to go and tries to apologize to you, you will hate them forever.
Yeah.
You know what? I don't necessarily agree with that one. No, I actually don't agree with that one.
No. Don't even go there. I'm not going to mention names on the air, but we're going to mention them off the air that we've had, huge fights over where we haven't spoken for hours.
Well, I think I know the incident you're talking about. Now, what I would say to that is that I was never apologized to. I was never apologized to.
Because you wouldn't go to the meeting.
Well, I was never apologized.
Wait a second.
Because you refused to go.
It wasn't necessarily something
that was
a direct
either,
insult. It was just as if the first time you met that person, they didn't give you the right amount of love.
No, that's not true.
Yeah,
no.
There's some truth.
See,
to that.
that's not true at all either. That's definitely not true. Again, it's very difficult to have this conversation with you guys, considering that we're not going to give specifics.
No. Wait a minute. There are people that indirectly weren't. No. Without naming names, we'll say what happened. There are people that when you ran for office, their groups wouldn't allow you in. And they were in leadership positions in those groups.
Yep.
They are no longer in leadership positions of those same groups because they feel like those groups were not good groups and they wanted to get out because they realized the error of their ways.
Mm-hmm.
Will you have anything to do with any of those people?
Most of them, no.
Right.
Hold on. Now,
Your Honor, the defense rest.
No, not at all. Those people come to me and say, I'm sorry the way things went down?
They've tried and you won't even speak to them.
No, that's not true at all.
That is a lie,
No, that's
Alex.
not true at all. That is not true at all. Now you guys are going too far with it. Look, there are many people that if they ask me to go and meet with them, I will do it.
But if they ask,
I have said no very, very few times.
But if they ask all of us and just say, hey, we'd like to meet with you guys, and don't specifically mention your name.
Yeah, extend an olive branch in a kind of surreptitious way.
Extend an olive branch to me then.
It has to be. And this is why we say that it's the ego that's the problem with the imprinting.
No, that's not that's not an ego thing, and I'm gonna tell you why. And maybe that you have a little bit of a point here, but let me explain it another way. Because of 2010, if I'm not specifically invited somewhere, and I don't think that I'm allowed to go to those places, I'm not going. And I'm not going because I'm not allowed to be there. They haven't invited me, and I don't want them to go back later on and say, "Well, we didn't ask you to be here anyway." I got to be asked. And I'm sorry that sounds like an ego thing, but it's not. It's really more of a, I don't know who the friendlies are and who they aren't sometimes, so I'm just not going to show up someplace uninvited.
No. I'm not talking about
And be honest with you,
I'm talking
those same
about
people,
one-on-one meetings.
Well, no. And I've never been asked a time to talk that I haven't done it. I have never been asked a time to talk, and I haven't done it.
Well, that is true. I'll give you that one. You've never been invited to talk where you've turned it down. Ego. But I think that might be ego too.
Maybe. I'll go with that. All right, guys, a good week. You know, a little. I'm kind of treating the new show as therapy now, so we're going to have a little segment every week that has a therapeutic segment. If you can get some value out of that, then drop some money in the donate box on 1787network.com. So you're getting free medical or free psychological advice.
And you won't get your gun taken away.
You're listening to Liberty Underground. We'll be on next week. Make sure you subscribe to us on YouTube. We'll see you next week.
Are we gonna do what they say can't be done? We've got a long way to go and a short time to get there. I'm eastbound up, watch our bandit run.
I tweet, you tweet. So follow us at twitter.com/1787network.